Good evening, race fans, and welcome to the iRacing Countdown to Green, refreshed by Coca-Cola. We are live from the virtual Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, for the 8th race of the 2021 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series season. A warm welcome to those of you watching on iRacing's platforms at eNASCAR.com. My name is James Pike, and before we get to talking about tonight's race, let's look back at what happened 2 weeks ago when this series visited the virtual Kansas Speedway.
The pace car going to dive to pit road this time and lead the field in control of the number 4 of Ryan Loser. As we say, let's go racing from Kansas. Looks like Clampett's going to be the first driver in on a short-stop strategy. Caution in a spinner. It's the 77 car of Bob Bryant. And we have our first yellow of the afternoon. 82 laps down, 52 laps to go. Chris Shearburn for the first restart of the night. Oh, and contact and spinner. Mitchell DeYoung in front of the field, and it is an absolute melee. With 47 laps to go, Shearburn and Clampett side by side on the front row. 36 car restarts us. Can the 44 get it? Can sees daylight. Slide job at a 4. Shuts the door. What a move. And now it's a role reversal, right? The 36 on the bottom, the 44 up top, and Kill slide up, shut the door, blocks him all the way to the grass, and now Shearburn back in control by 6 car lengths. And for the first time since 2010, we'll see our 7th different winner in the opening 7 races of the year out of turn 4, checkered flag at Kansas to Chris Shearburn.
So it was Chris Shearburn picking up the victory for Letarte Esports in Kansas 2 weeks ago. And at this time, we'll welcome in our panel of former eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series drivers, Michael Gaviria, Brandon Cattell, and Chris Overland. And Michael, we'll start with you. When you think back to that race at Kansas, what stands out to you the most?
Well, the biggest thing for me is just the fact that we're halfway in the regular season so far. We're 7 down, 7 more to go here before we get to the playoffs, and it's going to be able to crown a champion over $100,000. But, I mean, at this point, the playoffs, the brackets are more than half full at this point. I mean, we have 7 drivers who have already won and punched their tickets in for the time being. So, I mean, at this point, spots are getting limited. And if you're those guys who are up in the point standings who don't have a win, it's time to put up. Because, I mean, at this point, you need it to stay in where you're at this point. Because the rate we're going, we're going to have a lot of different winners and a lot of different things are on the line at this point. So, drivers are going to need to start putting things together. And the halfway point, it's already been crazy so far. It's only going to get crazier from here on out.
It was pretty crazy at Kansas, and we had a few wild incidents. And Chris Overland, I think that definitely shaped things up over the course of that race.
Absolutely. I mean, we saw Mitchell DeYoung and Bobby Zielinski run up front early in the race, and unfortunately they got taken out because of either over-aggressive driving or wrong place, wrong time. But when it comes down to it, you got to keep your nose clean. I mean, like Michael said, the clock is ticking. And you can't win a race if you're not there at the end. We saw a bunch of drivers who had no business finishing in the top 15 last week, getting good runs because they were so far behind the wreck. Tonight at Circuit of the Americas, it's going to be no different. Very narrow track, and a lot of people getting really, really nervous here with the playoffs looming.
I feel like the general theme coming into tonight's race, Brandon, might be just nerves, and also the parity in the field. We've had so many different winners already.
Well, I want to say one thing. We're not in Kansas anymore. Thankfully, as we go into this race tonight, I'm looking at one of the biggest things is it's the race to 2 wins. Who's gonna get it done? I look at the winners this year already, and I think, man, who's gonna just perform next? Who's gonna be the one to outshine the others? And we're still waiting, as we've had a different winner after different winner each week. That being said, we're closing in on a record that was set back in 2010 in the inaugural season of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, and that was the most different winners to start out a season, and that was starting out with Dale Jr. back in 2010. So we're closing in on records. We're closing in on possibly a second time for someone to have a second win this year. So it's crazy right now, guys. I can't believe everything that's happened in this series. It's super competitive.
Best season ever.
It's literally the best season ever.
A wild first 7 races to start off this season, no doubt. Now, over the last few weeks, we've been asking our fans of eNASCAR to send in pictures of your rigs and your setups on Twitter so we can see how you race on iRacing. And if you tweet a picture of your rig and mention iRacing and NASCAR while using the hashtag eNASCAR, your setup might be the next one featured on our next iRacing Countdown to Green show. Now, of course, remember, you have to mention iRacing and NASCAR at iRacing and at NASCAR, and then use the hashtag eNASCAR in order for your rig to be considered. But send them in. We want to see how you race in the sim.
Twitter's hard, man.
Twitter is very tricky.
We really do want to see those rigs, guys. So please send them.
Yes.
Agreed on that. So tonight is a big night in terms of the calendar. When we wrap up our race this evening at Circuit of the Americas, we'll be halfway through the regular season. And as we look at the second half of the regular season, heading into the playoffs, we've got 3 road courses that are going to pop up. First one tonight here at Circuit of the Americas, but 2 more in Road America and Watkins Glen before we get to the playoffs that start at Darlington. So, drivers, when you look at this back half of the regular season, which race do you think will be most influential in deciding who makes the playoffs?
Well, I think we're actually halfway tonight, not counting the All-Star race, but of the remaining schedule, the race that is the most important to me, not so much for every single driver, but I'll say specifically for Garrett Maines, is going to be New Hampshire. Garrett Maines had a great run at Richmond, and New Hampshire drives a very similar way, but he just could not get around Vicente Salas. And if Garrett Maines wants to be in these playoffs, I don't know if he's going to do it on points. He's going to have to get a win, and I think every race is very important, but specifically if I'm Garrett Maines in that number 2 machine, I'm looking at that race, and I've got it circled on my calendar. I cannot wait for July 13th to get that victory at New Hampshire. That's the most important one to me, I think, for him specifically. And the rest of the field, just try to get it done somewhere else.
Well, they are going to have to try and get it done somewhere else there, Chris. And I'm looking after the All-Star race for the race of importance for me, and that's going to be Watkins Glen. We talk about tonight, Circuit of the Americas, where the Road Ringers are to come out. Well, this is going to be the last chance for those Road Ringers to get a chance at a win and secure maybe some even extra points going towards the playoffs as they do carry over to the playoffs. So that'll help them in that regards. And it's also for the oval guys, most of the guys who don't have that same prowess on the road side of things as they do on the oval. They just have to basically survive in advance. You just can't have a bad race. I don't remember the last time we had a road course this close to when the playoffs started. So this is the point of the year where you need to be consistent and you need to survive in advance past Watkins Glen.
Now, Michael, Chris, I value your guys' opinions, but not as much as mine.
Oh my gosh.
Michigan,
Wow.
Michigan is gotta be the race on everybody's radar, guys. Come on. It's the last race of the playoffs. If you want to make the playoffs, you have to have a good car that has raw speed. You want to have a car that gets down the straightaway and can draft good and get through the dirty air. So I don't know how you're not circling Michigan on your radar right now, guys. It's the race. It's the last race before the playoffs.
Every time I think about Michigan, I get really upset, Cattell.
Yeah.
You guys both came close to winning there, so
I think we almost all won a race at Michigan.
Well, Brandon's got a really good point. Remember how that race was last year. It was tight. It was close. There was lots of door-to-door racing. We had a big wreck at the end before Casey Kerwin picked up the victory. If that happens again this year, we may see some drivers fall outside the playoff cutoff right at the very end. Could be a lot of fun to watch that race at Michigan. So there's a look at the second half of the regular season schedule. Let's move over to the team standings and see how our 20 teams are faring through the first portion of the 2021 season. They are headlined at the moment by the folks at William Byron Esports. Logan Clampett picked up the victory at Atlanta back in March, and defending champion Nick Ottinger brought consistency to bring them to the top of the standings. But when we look at this, Brandon Cattell, what stands out to you about these team standings this point in the season?
I mean, when I look at these standings right now, I just see the standings now compared to where a lot of these teams were last year. I know some of the teams weren't in the series at the time, but if you just look at some of the teams that are doing so well this year, we've got Kligerman Sport up there, Motorsports is up there, It's so refreshing to see some new names up running in the top 10 in the team standings. And guys, it's money on the line. I keep telling you guys this. It's money on the line for the teams, for the drivers. It's a big deal. It's something cool that iRacing has done, Coca-Cola, and it's really good to see this where everybody's at right now in the standings. I really want to just give a shout out to William Byron Esports and how they're leading the charge right now. And Nick Ottinger doesn't even have a win, so his consistency is really kind of helping that lead the way.
Yeah, well, I mean, on the flip side of that, Brandon, XSET was leading the points in the team standings the last time that we looked at this, and now they're 74 points back. Since we last looked at the team standings, Casey Kerwin doesn't have a finish inside the top 30.
Yeah,
Casey, come on. Come on,
Chris,
man.
Chris, he went from Mr. Consistency to no consistency at all. And
Yeah,
that's really tough. I mean,
and he's not the only one either. Ryan Luza finishing 36th, I believe, last time we were out here. So these guys have gone from the top, the cream of the crop, and they're falling like a rock. And that rhymed, but I'm not a rapper.
Hey, that is a good little rhyme there, Chris. I give you props for that. But on my end of the spectrum, I'm looking at two different teams where one driver is basically carrying the teams from a different perspective. I mean, look at Latar Esports. This is a little bit more of a different case, but I mean, Chris Shearburn, who won last time at Kansas, he's been performing top 15s each and every week. Zelensky just hasn't had the start to the season that he's liked. I mean, he's only got one top 10 to his name through the first 7 races. That's not like him. He's going to look to turn that around tonight. And I'm also looking at Jim Beaver Esports. Same thing applies. I mean, Michael Guest has been a little bit more inconsistent, but I mean, he's been top 10s every other race so far this season. He's been carrying the torch for Jim Beaver Esports, and Kane Cook needs to help step it up so that way these guys have a chance into it. But still top 8 in the standings. That's better than where they were last year when I was on the team. So, I mean, they're doing something right with those guys.
Jim Beaver in 8th and Latart Esports in 3rd. And speaking of Latart Esports, we happen to be joined by team owner at Latart Esports, analyst for NASCAR on NBC, Steve Latart himself joins us. And Steve, first things first, to be able to see Chris Shearburn get the victory at Kansas last time out as a team owner, how cool was that for you to watch that all unfold, especially after the way he dominated the second half of that race?
I was so happy for Chris. He's been a great member of Latard Esports really since the inception. He's had some close runs, some good runs that never worked out. I know he sneaked out the victory at the end of the season last year at Miami, but he really kind of wanted to have that dominating victory. The Miami one was pit strategy, but the Kansas race was really a dominant car late, and he did such a nice job. One for the originals, the old guys from the sim racing world. He's been doing it a long time, and it was great to see him go to victory lane.
Since that race at Homestead, Latart Esports has really picked up steam coming into 2021. You pick up Bobby Zelensky in the offseason, and your drivers currently sit 3rd in the team standings. What's changed from last year between Bobby and Chris, and how are they working together differently than they did in 2020?
That's one of the big shifts we made over the offseason. I spent a lot of time communicating with Chris on what he needed away from the races. We know what happens. We see the broadcasts every few weeks on Tuesday nights of what he does during the races. How does he get to those races? How do they prepare? And he had a list of folks that he worked with a lot away from the racetrack about how they prep, how they work on their setups, how they development setups. And Bobby was one of those names, and we worked hard to try to team him up with Chris. So all the work, development, and effort off the racetrack carried to the racetrack. I couldn't be more excited for the year. I know we are fortunate to get a win. I think we could have had a couple. Bobby's had a little bit of tough luck. Even in that Kansas race, he was right there with Chris, got caught up in an accident, but we still have pretty good team points, and I expect heading into the road course runs starting tonight, Bobby's going to be strong.
I think everybody knows how strong Bobby is on these road courses. He's looking for his 7th consecutive road course victory in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series this evening. So we head to Circuit of the Americas for the first time. So as a team owner, how excited are you? How good do you feel about Bobby's chances to pick up win number 7 in a row on a road course tonight?
Well, I'm pumped, first of all, just to see COTA. It's a track that I've seen a little bit of racing at. I've never seen a NASCAR race, obviously, but we're going to see live action this weekend, and I can't wait to see the race this evening, see how everybody runs. And listen, Bobby's great at the road courses, but the most important thing that we've talked about is don't put too much pressure on himself. I know he has a great streak going, but this series is stacked with talent every year, and I think the field is only deeper this year. I really have my eye on Mitchell. His road course prowess really internationally is well known. The Porsche Cup, he's so fast, he runs so well that it's not going to be a cakewalk by any means for Bobby. And I don't want him to put too much pressure on him. Why wins are the goals. Just have a good, solid day. And I think if he can get some track position on Mitchell, he'll be able to keep it. But it's going to be a tough battle, but it's still a long ways. We got a lot of races left in the regular season, so kind of, just keep inching our way up there and keep gaining those points.
I know you're excited to watch how everything unfolds tonight and watch the rest of the regular season, but how excited are you for the playoffs when you get the chance to come in and join us on these broadcasts? That should be a lot of fun, no?
It's so much fun. That's really, I'm spoiled, right? I get to watch the first chunk of the season as a team owner, as a fan, and then you guys are lucky enough to invite me in to kind of join you on the broadcast. I look forward to it. I love my job on NBC covering the Cup Series, the Xfinity Series on the weekends, and then to get to carry that forward here to the eNASCAR Coca-Cola Series is so much fun. And I think it could be even more exciting this year if we could keep Chris up there in points and get him in the playoffs and maybe get Bobby to join. It'd be a whole lot more fun to cover the races with a couple Letard eSport cars making a run for a championship.
We'll be watching Bobby. We'll be watching Chris this evening, and I know you will too. Thank you so much for the time, Steve, and we look forward to seeing you later on this season.
All right, appreciate it.
There's Steve Letard, team owner of Letard Esports, and we take a look at the schedule. We take a look at the team standings. Let's take a look at the driver standings and show you where our drivers sit in points entering tonight. Now, you've got 7 drivers who have at least one victory entering this evening. Keegan Leahy, Logan Clampett, Chris Sherburne, Michael Conti, Ryan Luza, Bob Bryant, and Vicente Salas. They have a leg up on everybody else in the march towards the playoffs. Now, if the standings stopped tonight, and if we enter the playoffs as it sits, we'd add 3 more names to the list of drivers that would make the playoffs and join the fun. Michael Guest, Matt Busa, and Isaac Gann would all jump into this. And Brandon, I feel like you see those 3 drivers, and even though they don't have a win, it says so much about what they've done in terms of their consistency and just how strong they've been over the first few races.
I mean, without a doubt, the consistency that they've shown has been great. And even Matt Busa, if I remember correctly, he didn't start the season out well at all. I remember, I think at Atlanta or so, he was running dead last with one of the other motorsports cars, and they had missed the setup there. But he rebounded very well in that race. And I know his crew chief, we're going to give him a quick shout out real quick. Dustin Hall, he was my crew chief last year. I know that they've worked really, really hard this year to get back to where they want to be, especially Busa is a winning capable driver in the series, and he really wants to get into the playoffs. That being said, they need to be consistent and get a win and not just be Mr. Consistency, because it may not be race to 1 win. It might be race to 2 wins.
Now, if you read that graphic on the bottom, there's a very, very important point in that the race winners must maintain a place within the top 20 in points in order for those wins to be counted towards an automatic playoff berth. And Chris, when you look at some of the drivers on the bottom end of the win cutoff, as it were, Ryan Luza, Bob Bryant, Vicente Salas, 12th, 13th, and 14th, with the way the season is gone, it might not be enough just to have that one victory, especially with as tight as the points are around 20th.
Yeah, I mean, as far as that's concerned, just really quickly, I mean, if Dustin Hall can get a win with Brendan Cattell, he can definitely get a win with Matt Busa. We'll say that. But with Ryan Luza, Bob Bryant, and Vicente sitting right there, they're only 26, 25, and 22 points ahead of the 21st place driver. And on the flip side of that, we've got drivers outside the top 20 who could get a win tonight and then catapult themselves forward as the season goes on. So.
Now let's play hypotheticals for a moment. We'll take a look at that. And you look at some of the drivers who have had road course success over the years. Your Bobby Zelenskis, the Mitchell DeYoungs and company, Michael Grilli. If one of those wins tonight, then Gann slides out of the playoff picture and Guest and Busa hang on, but only by a little bit. I think it underscores the importance of winning in the regular season.
Yeah, and I mean, we look at the standings here with this slotted in. This is suggesting the fact that either one of those two could win tonight, and there's a possibility they can't. I mean, should something go wrong between these two, they might have a chance of winning. But looking at the rest of the schedule like we did earlier, there's still 2 more road courses outside Circuit of the Americas with Road America and Watkins Glen. So, I mean, not only would one of these guys theoretically, if should win tonight, there's a chance the other driver who doesn't win tonight amongst those two, he has a chance at one of those two tracks later in the year. So this playing hypothetical, not only would Isaac Gann be kicked out with one of these guys wins, playing into a factor, but also Busta might get moved out should Zelensky or De Jong win later in the year. And also the fact that Mitchell, his 19th in the standings, Chris talked about it, that 20 cutoff with a win, he's only 19th. So should he have a few misfortunes the rest of the way, he might not be inside the cut from there either.
All valid points. And I think at this point we need to give some credit to Chris Overland, because Chris, when we played Roll 'em or Fold 'em at Las Vegas earlier in the year, you said that you thought we were going to have 10 different winners in the first 10 races. And we all looked at you and thought that you were crazy. But at this point, we've got 7 already. We could have 8 at the end of this evening. You may be dead on with that prediction after all.
Hey, let's clarify what it was I said. I do think that we're going to have 10 race winners to start the season. But what I said was by the end of the playoffs, we're going to have more than 10 winners. And so you're going to have to not only win a race, but you're going to have to point your way in at the same time. So these guys, 14th, 13th, 12th around there in the points, you never know. Isaac Gann, Michael Guest, Matt Busa even could get one of these wins. Nick Ottinger hasn't won a race this year. It's going to get tight. It's going to get tight down here.
And it's already tight as it is. I mean, when you think about it, we talk about it being already small margins even to get in the top 10. There's a lot of guys, like you said, that still haven't got a win. We mentioned it earlier with what Cattell said, the fact that Nick Ottinger hasn't got a win. You're 2020 champion of all things.
It's
so
just a shame I didn't put any money on that. I've never been this right.
I mean, there's just a lot on the line, and there's still guys who have winning capability who haven't put it in victory lane just yet.
Potentially all valid points there, but it's time to start looking at this Circuit of the Americas, a brand new track for the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. We've never run here before. And amongst our panel, we were talking last night, and we all agreed that there was one person who knows the road courses better than anybody else amongst our group, and that's Michael Guerrilla. So, Michael, take us through a lap around Circuit of the Americas and tell us all about this circuit just outside of downtown Austin.
Well, guys, this is the first time we're going to be seeing Circuit of the Americas tonight, and on your graphic, you'll see the different technical corners on this track. I mean, in length, it's 3.427 miles long, so this is going to be a long lap time, and there's 20 different turns on the circuit. I mean, you look at the map as the way it is as well. There's elevation change. We go off into turns 1, that far right kink at the top of your screen, that's a 133-foot elevation rise. So as you're going into that braking zone, you're going to have troubles keeping the car under your belts when you come down through the corner. Not only do you have that, you follow it up with an S section, another tight hairpin, a very long straightaway, almost 3/4 of a mile long, and then you get into 2 swooping sections, the stadium section and a long right-hander coming into the complete the lap as well. So back in 2012, this was a F1 purpose-built circuit, the first of its kind in the U.S., and it shows with how technical this circuit is.
When Herman Tilke designed this circuit, he sort of mixed and matched some of his favorite pieces from Formula One circuits already built around the world to build COTA. The S's are much like the Magnus Beckett's complex at Silverstone. The stadium section on the back end of the racetrack is modeled after the similar section at Hockenheim. The Turn 16-17 complex around the 360 Tower, much like Turn 8 at Istanbul Park. And you can almost break this track up into sections just like that, Michael Guerrilla, but you need to nail each and every one of them in order to have fast lap times and ultimately a good race here.
Yeah, and I mean, when it comes down to it, it's really a test of the machine and the setup work these guys will be doing. There's a lot of high-speed corners and coming down to heavy braking zones like we saw in the back straightaway, coming to another hairpin. And not only that, you have to maintain speed through the S's, and there's going to be different technical sections that wear on the car and the tires as well. So being able to manage those tire temps throughout the lap is going to be important, considering the fact that you have such little time to actually take a breath, except for the back straightaway. I mean, it's so technical. You're always going to be turning or doing something when it comes down to it.
Plenty of work that these drivers are going to have to do over the course of this evening. It's not an easy lap around Circuit of the Americas if you want to be successful.
Yeah, I'll tell you guys one thing. I live an hour away from this race course, and for those of us who live in Texas, I'd rather go through I-10 traffic at 5 p.m. than do a lap around. Unbelievable.
A road course racer you are not, but maybe a predictor you might be a little bit better at, Chris Overland?
I'm hoping.
Well, let's see. Let's go to our picks for this evening and see who you all think is going to win tonight's race. We'll take a look here. Michael Guerrilla enters this evening with 178 points.
We're closing the gap.
Brandon Cattell with 157
I'm
and
running
Chris
y'all
Overland with
down.
153. So Yeah, I know. We know. So, Brandon, you've been there and sort of in the middle. You and Chris are sort of struggling behind Michael, but Brandon, we'll let you go first. Who's getting the checkered flag tonight at COTA?
Okay, so I have to do this. Steve Letarte was on the show tonight. Bobby Zalenski, I want some more points, man. Bobby Zalenski's going to get the win. He's going to get his 7th straight road course win tonight.
I thought you were going to say Steve
Bobby.
Letarte was going to win.
Oh my.
Hey, we haven't really talked about, we've talked about Mitchell, we've talked about Bobby. It's the Mitchell and Bobby show. I watched the practice race last night and Casey Kerwin won it. So Casey Kerwin is my pick for tonight. I know I talked a little down about him in the pre-race show. I talked about how he hasn't had a top 30 finish in the last 3 races. He breaks that tonight, and he breaks the curse that I put on him back in Sonoma in 2014 when I put him in the pit barrels. I'm so sorry, Casey. You're going to get a win tonight, and it's all going to be better. Promise.
So you were Brian Vickers, and you put Tony Stewart up on the barrels. Is that right?
Yeah. Except it wasn't even on purpose. I was just that bad.
Well, guys, you gave me the best pick on the board. How could you guys do that?
That's
I got
debatable.
the points lead. Well, for me, I'm going with Mitchell DeJong. I mean, that man has got the background and the credentials to back up his win that I'm going to be predicting tonight. I mean, the man's a Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup Series runner-up. He's a former iRacing World Championship Formula One competitor. He finished runner-up in that series as well. So he can wheel an F1 car. He can wheel a Porsche car. He's not afraid of road course racing. He'll be able to attain this 3,400-pound NASCAR Cup Series car tonight at Circuit of the Americas.
I didn't know that stuff. I didn't know all that. I should have picked him.
I'm telling you, man. He's got to get the job done tonight.
So Michael might have done a little bit more research perhaps, but I think the one truth, regardless of who you pick, is that this may be the toughest field that Bobby Zalenski has had to fight in order to try to get a race victory.
Absolutely.
He's got to be the Vegas favorite coming into tonight, but you've got so many strong drivers and some new drivers too, like a Mitchell DeJong, like a Vicente Solange, who have come in, who have shown prowess on road courses and are going to give us a good old-fashioned Texas shootout at Circuit of the Americas. That'll do it for tonight's iRacing Countdown to Green, refreshed by Coca-Cola. Stick around. We're going to take a quick break, but on the other side, we'll have Evan Pisoko, Tim Terry, and all of the stars in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series as they tackle Circuit of the Americas for the very first time.
This town ain't big enough for the both of us.
This Coca-Cola Zero Sugar tastes mighty delicious.
Come on, buddy.
But
If you keep lying like this, you'll be a puppet forever.
it's the honest truth.
You're right. It's delicious.
I never lie.
I am chaos in a good way. I am everything you want to see at once. Coming at you like a comet on fire. I am bumping, banging, and battling to the finish.
It is all on the line.
Because if you can conquer this series, you can conquer anything.
That was some intense racing.
I am the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. I am NASCAR.
It doesn't matter where you're from, who you grew up rooting for, what you grew up watching, your home track, your favorite car, the series you've always wanted to race in. When you're ready to know what it's like, we're here, bringing you as close to the action as it gets with the ultimate sim racing experience. With a community of hundreds of thousands just like you. This is iRacing, and here, every day is race day.
This is our series, where the stakes are always higher, where virtual meets reality. This is the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series.
Yeah, look at my shine with the glow. This is my time with it though. This is my time to be way at the top. Me and my guys gon' pay out the block. I don't look like boss, time's right. And I know they see us walking in the limelight. Promise you gon' wanna watch like a sci-fi. My guys rise, a high rise is high tide. My crown if you come to my side. I pledge allegiance for lifetime. My squad connected like Wi-Fi. We grind and you see the highlights. This my life. It ain't a game now. Me and you, we ain't the same now. Lions coming out to play now. Opposition out the way now. Out of the way. You wasn't invited. Say you come to play. I dare you to try it. You don't wanna try me. Don't step up to my team. Yeah, out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way.
The road to $300,000 speeds through the Lone Star State for a first ever trip to the live music capital of the world. Where tonight, from the virtual circuit of the Americas, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round 8 of the 2021 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. Happy that you're with us, as always, alongside Tim Terry. My name is Evan Pasoko, and Tim, it's been the Bobby Zelensky show, pre-race in this one, right? He has been the dominant car on these road races. But tonight may be the biggest question of all of them. A new track, some new faces. Could we have a new road course winner?
We might. There's a lot of drivers in here that have been practicing all week long, Evan, to really get their footing at this racetrack. We've seen Jimmy Mullis be strong at road courses. Nick Ottinger's won one. Michael Conti's always one you have to watch out for. I think Mitchell DeYoung, when you look at the newcomers to this series, obviously with his road racing prowess, he's got something for these guys tonight. But I think that mark is set at Bobby Zelensky. It's a matter of which way they go.
Yeah, he is the expectation. There are other great road course drivers. You know, once upon a time, Tim, we were talking about this pre-race. For the longest time, this series didn't have any road course races. Then we got to 1 a year. Then we got to 2 a year. Now it's 2021, right? You need to be a well-rounded driver to compete at the top level in this, and that includes being good at road courses. And of course, with the unique situation coming into this evening, with having 7 different race winners in the opening 7 weeks, those playoff spots on points are awfully scarce. And you like to say the boat's getting full. If we see a road course ringer or just a new driver get the win here this evening, it could get that much tighter. So not only tonight's road race, but I think the couple in the weeks to come, as you heard on that Countdown to Green show mentioned, going to be crucial, that you need to be good on the ovals. I think you got to be good on the road these days too to be an eNASCAR champion.
And you know what? I think you hit the nail on the head being well-rounded as a driver. You have to be good at road courses. You have to be good at the short tracks. You have to be good at the mile-and-a-half racetracks. Super speedways are a part of this deal. So not only do you have to be a part of all those different disciplines on oval, you also have to be really good on the road course. So these guys are going to shine tonight. Those guys that are good on road courses, we're going to see them go to the front. Qualifying is going to be key. Just a matter of who comes out on top and who ends up getting that track position to come to victory lane.
Let's take a sneak peek at the practice session. About 5 minutes left until we actually go qualifying here in virtual Austin, Texas. And there is the man of the hour, Bobby Zelensky, the favorite coming into this one. But as I mentioned, Tim, it may be the biggest question mark we've seen in sometimes. Bobby Zelensky has led every single lap in an eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series road course race since 2018. And in 2018, he led 52 of the 55 laps at Sonoma, but he led every lap at Sonoma and the Roval. In 2019, every lap at the Daytona Road Course, and last year at the Charlotte Roval as well. He is a dominant driver, but you don't lead 55 of the 55 laps by not qualified well, Tim. And that's why the Q session, to your point, going to be so important. And that big question is the man right there, Mitchell DeYoung, the newcomer who has other iRacing World Championship experience in the Porsche Esports Super Cup. He's already been on pole, Tim, a handful of times this year. This is his element. Look out, you go into the space station cars, spin it off and into turn number 1. But if there is the big question, it is going to be, what can Mitchell do in a big, powerful stock car tonight?
And we just saw in that shot, he's no longer in the purple room. He's on vacation, so it's a different setting for him, but he's used to it, being at home where he is. In the 83 of Bobby Zelensky. Evan, would it surprise you if I said that he was the fastest driver in this practice session?
I would take things that don't surprise me for 200 on that one. And Mitchell DeYoung is up there inside of the top 3. Bolin fast in practice as well. He's the 3rd best. Him. you've seen these guys for a long time. You've been around them, and we all know these names. Are we still keeping a couple of hundreds in our back pocket at this point as we go into Q, or are the laps that they're putting down right now in practice with Zelensky, Boland, DeYoung, Mullis, and Luza being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the scoring pylon? Are these their top speeds?
You know what? It's funny. I kind of watched some of the A-Open races that we had last night on the iRacing service, and any of those drivers can hop on and go race. And there was about a dozen of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series drivers in those races that I saw. There was more drivers, I think, spectating, trying to see what those drivers had, trying to get a little peek under the curtain as to what their competition had. As you ride on board with Bobby Zelensky, they continue to work around this racetrack. I think he might be holding a couple of tenths, but we'll see.
The long straightaway, we talk about this racetrack. How about 181 miles an hour for Bobby Zelensky? The run down from turn number 11 to 12 on the backstretch there. That's pretty much equal with some of the top speed you see on a lot of the intermediate tracks of the lower horsepower package this year. I mean, they get moving around this circuit of the Americas, and it is a massive track as well. Just listen to how Bobby has to control this, Tim. This goes to the point I was making about Mitchell, right? Mitchell's used to driving road races, but road racing in a stock car is not road racing in a Porsche, right? And when Mitchell competes in that Porsche Esports Super Cup, those cars are made for tracks like this. You really have to be very sensitive. And look at Bobby Zelensky, by the way, Tim pulling over before he gets to the start-finish line to count a lap time. So nobody knows how good he was doing on that lap. I love the gamesmanship, but it is really a totally unique challenge. And we'll be able to take the onboard looks with these drivers in their sim rigs all evening long. There's a look at all of our drivers ready to go. A quick glance tells me, Tim, that there's not a lot of people that took the stock car rim off for the Formula rim. We see, the likes of Zelensky and others do that pretty common. I thought there would have been a little bit more, but I guess we're sticking to it as authentic as we can be and sticking with those stock car wheels for this race.
I think Brian Schoenberg is the most relaxed of any driver there. He can see him up there. I don't even think he's on the racetrack. Talking to his crew right now and kind of kicking back. There's a few drivers that are really up on the wheel. It looks like Keegan is getting ready for qualifying. Isaac Gann, we talked about him being in the college dorm the last time we raced a couple of weeks ago. Different location for him compared to what he started the season with. So there's some different rooms, some different backgrounds, backdrops, and as you mentioned, some different rims as well. Logan Clampett seems happy.
Yeah, Nick Ottinger might be one of the most low-key of them all. He's one down from the top and one over from the left next to Logan Clampett and others. Once upon a time, Tim, before it was the Bobby Zelensky show, we used to not know who was going to win these road courses races, right? Back in 2014, the first ever road course race in the history of this eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series saw Michael Conti dominate, leading 47 to 50 laps to get the win at Watkins Glen. There's only 5 drivers still in the series now that competed in that very first race: Conti, Ottinger, Alfala, Busa, and Davies. But the year after that, Nick Ottinger took the win at Watkins Glen. The year after that, in 2016, PJ Sturgis did, and he only led 17 of the 50 laps. So we used to come into these races wondering, and then Bobby Zelensky really started to pour it in. And here's a good comparison. Casey Kerwin, left of your screen, Mitchell DeYoung, right of your screen. Not a bad vacation spot for the driver who, as you mentioned, Tim's normally in the purple room. He does have the Formula, the open-wheeled style wheel in his sim rig. Those are pretty much interchangeable. You can see the other wheel options he has actually mounted on his wall. Pop that in and out. That's not something that the drivers of the NASCAR Cup Series are going to have the luxury of doing when they go to COTA this weekend. I think there's a track map, a spa there on the wall, and a couple of other tracks. So very different, Tim, stylistically to drive that Formula wheel than it is to what you're seeing out of Casey Kerwin, which is his normal sim rig setup as we transfer into qualifying.
And Mitchell's got those wheels up on the wall in case he needs to move them if we're going to an oval or if we're going back to a road course. So he has that done as well. And you can start to see that focus. These drivers are starting to work their way out onto the racetrack for the what would be their qualifying laps to get going here this evening.
And as always, it is a 10-minute session, a little bit longer, I actually think, to get those laps in, but it is still standard rules 2 timed laps is what is going to be your best foot forward. Typically, we're used to seeing drivers maybe use that first lap as a bit of a warm-up. For all we know, the top lap could be the best one of that pair. And it takes a long time for these drivers to get in, so we're not going to see some times on the board for a little bit, but want to welcome in the third member of our broadcast team, Justin Prince. JP, you're going to be down on pit road with us, and you've been talking with some of the drivers. I mean, what are some things that we're looking forward to seeing here tonight at COTA?
Well, many of the drivers emphasize that this is a fun but challenging racetrack where it's tough to hit your marks, but it's also one that provides plenty of action and opportunity. In the words of Michael Conti, he put this on social media before tonight's race, he considered by far COTA has given him the challenge more than any other track this series has given him in his competitive career so far. So this is going to be a circuit that will be absolutely challenging for competitors tonight. It's also been one, as talked about, where experience is going to be very vital. And for some, they've called it an absolute animal to try and drive the stock car around COTA. This is going to be an interesting race in that regard, Evan, to see which drivers come out on top in that regard.
I want to know that we're used to comparing the likes of Sonoma to Watkins Glen and the Roval. Tim, I don't really think that COTA stacks up against anything that we've seen in series history. So I wonder if that's going to give everybody but Bobby Zalenski an advantage, right? He can't reach into his back pocket with the thousands of laps of experience. Everybody's starting from fresh, and I'm sure they all appreciated the extra week off that we had, Tim, because it gave them that much more practice time.
Absolutely. And if you want to learn more about this series, schedule, standings, stats, driver information, what have you, you can head to iRacing.com/eNASCAR and get engaged with this series even more. But yeah, to your point, Evan, I think you're going to see these drivers attack this thing a little bit different. I chatted with Mitchell DeYoung a little bit earlier on, and I told him, I said, just give me, if there's one piece of advice you can give to a driver that's coming to this racetrack, what will it be? And he actually gave me 2 that kind of stuck out. He said, you have to attack the braking zones. You cannot be conservative going into the braking areas. There's a lot of high-speed areas of this racetrack as well, but you have to be aggressive going in there. That's where you're going to make your... Also, don't light the tires up coming off those corners as well, because you're going to need those tires later on tonight.
So be aggressive, but don't overdrive the car. Seems easy enough. These guys have to certainly find that balance. And if you want to get on track, drive a stock car at COTA. Get excited for this upcoming NASCAR weekend in Austin, Texas, or any other of the basically endless combinations of car and tracks on the service. For more information on how to start your sim racing career, you can log on to iRacing.com for more information, because with iRacing, every day is race day. And, we talk about the importance of these road courses. And Justin, I want to bring you into the conversation on this one as we take a look high above COTA, right? This is a racetrack where we've been waiting for this, right? We had to wait a long time to get to round number 8, to get to our first road course race, but they're going to come hot and heavy in the second half of this regular season. So it's a completely different second half to the regular season than what we've seen over the last 7 weeks.
Absolutely, and Vicente Salas in particular had emphasized towards my direction the importance of trying to score points, because we've seen how many victors have come throughout this season so far. It's been that type of a campaign where winners have been plentiful. So there's a lot of pressure for him, but keep in mind, there's been a lot of work put in by some of these competitors, upwards of 30 hours for this racetrack for some of our competitors to make sure they're ready to go for tonight.
I don't know if I've done 30 hours total time in a stock car and a road course on the service, but that's why these guys are the pros and arguably we're the Joes, Tim. But, these guys are in the qualifying session now, so I'm keeping a half eye on my times. We know qualifying is going to be big because in most races, drivers go into it with a strategy, and then it kind of gets muffled up a little bit when you get cautions and the strategy changes. Tonight, we're not going to have that, right? There will be no full course cautions for tonight's race, so we're going all the way 34 laps. So it doesn't mean you're not going to get into trouble. Could have a big pileup up the hill into turn 1. That's going to be an awfully tempted one, right, where drivers got to go way over to the right-hand side, and that bottom is open, begging for somebody to dive bomb. Curious if somebody does. But for the most part in this race, you can set a plan forth at the start of the night and execute that. And I'm curious if we'll have varying strategies in tonight's race that could see some drivers who don't get that track position off of the bat try to make some changes to buy themselves some clean air.
And you know what? It's funny. We keep talking about these restarts, at least on the ovals. Everybody's packed up tight together. You get what you can get. Here, you only have one opportunity to get what you can get when the field is all jammed up together. So that could be the opportunity here this evening, Evan. If these guys want to pick up positions on the start, maybe they didn't hit their qualifying lap right. That's going to be the opportunity going up into one, and at least the first lap or so to really get your footing. You don't want to start off with a mistake because it's going to be a long night if you do.
And it may be a long night anyways, Justin. One thing that we sometimes forget, and it depends on the setup, right? How aggressive your force feedback's going to be. But this is a physical race for these drivers. Most of the time you get through 1 and 2, you take a deep breath. Really, the back straightaway is the only time, maybe the front stretch to some degree, where these drivers can take a break, right? This is going to be a grueling, demanding race where if you just lose concentration, just that mental focus for split second, you could be off the racetrack, have a slow down, a penalty, lose about a dozen spots. So discipline, and I think wearing these guys out going to be a story tonight as well, because you got to do 34 laps, 20 turns each. It's going to add up.
Absolutely. And to emphasize the amount of work that can be put in with this type of racetrack tonight, Mitchell DeYoung told me before this race that a stock car road course such as this is a different animal to drive, as talked about a little bit, where it feels like a big balancing act for the entire lap, where the window of optimal performance is very small. And so if you overdrive or underdrive the car, that is so immersely easy to do here for tonight. So it's going to be where drivers are going to have to find that balance to make sure they don't overcook their tires, Evan, but also don't underdrive the car and lose valuable positions in time.
And valuable positions are being determined now. There's about 2 minutes left in the qualifying session, and we will know the running order for this Texas Grand Prix at COTA, 8th round of the 2021 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. And I want to bring in a special guest onto tonight's coverage, Drew Parker, singer-songwriter and noted iRacer, who's going to be giving us the command in just a few moments. But Drew, appreciate you jumping on and giving us some time.
Yeah, so I guess when the pandemic happened, I wanted to do something, and I had heard about this iRacing thing, and I've always been a huge racing fan. And I was like, what's the easiest way for me to do this without having to go buy a car or whatever? Like, I want to race, and I want it to be like, I want it to feel real, and I want it to be involved in this kind of thing. And so I looked into iRacing, and I ended up going and buying a computer and the wheel and the pedals and the whole 9 yards. And I remember one night I was online after I had just gotten iRacing, downloaded it. I had raced a few things on my own, and I was watching Dale Jr. on Twitch one night, and he mentioned something about, as soon as all our buddies get in, I'll give the password out. Well, I realized in his Twitch stream, he was talking to this guy named Tim Duggar, who you may know. And me and Tim are good friends. We're both in the music business and here in Nashville. Well, I didn't really know Tim great at the time. We were just acquaintances. I knew him, he knew me, kind of thing. So I sent him a message on Instagram. I said, hey, what's the password for this race? And so he sent it out, and that was over a year ago. And I've been racing with those guys ever since. We race every Tuesday night. So it's a lot of fun, man.
It's certainly cool, and I know we've heard a lot of those stories, players from the NFL, of course, country music artists, and I think Dale's doing a good job of getting everybody involved, so certainly love to see that, Drew, and I appreciate you giving us some time here pre-race again. That is singer-songwriter. His new single, While You're Gone, is out now. iRacer Drew Parker, back over to you for the most famous words in motorsports.
Drivers, start your engines.
Fire them up and let's go. Qualifying has drawn to a close, and we are ready to say let's go racing for the first road course race of the 2021 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series calendar. We knew that some bombs were going to be dropped in this Q session, and this race just got really interesting to see how this one shakes out. Single car qualifying, 39 cars of 40 have put in a time. And I know a lot of drivers said pre-race, we're already looking forward to Charlotte, so this is going to be a tricky one for many. But let's head down trackside and take a look at your Coca-Cola starting grid here tonight for the virtual Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. Again, single car qualifying set the grid for this race. We questioned, could Bobby Zalenski continue his dominance on the road courses? Mitchell DeYoung has been talked about all night by us and on the Countdown to Green show as the driver who may be the biggest challenger, and there it is. Mitchell DeYoung, 2 minutes, 7.662 by 0.3 of a second. He is faster than Bobby Zalenski, and they will line up side by side on the front row. Your race winner from a couple of weeks back, Vicente Salas, will roll from third alongside Graham Bolin into the number 4 spot. Nick Ottinger and Keegan Leahy, Jimmy Mullis, Corey Vincent, Casey Kerwin, and Steven Wilson, Jim, the top 10.
And you got Dylan Duvall, Taylor Hurst back there, Ryan Luza, Michael Conti, former winner on a road course. You look back to Logan Clampett in row number 9, and Jake Nichols back there, and then your top 20, Garrett Lowe and Zach Novak.
You continue it on through second half of the field. Davies, Reynolds, you got Boosa, Bryant, Gorlinski all in the mix. Isaac Gad back there as well. How about Ray Alfalo, 28th position. Chris Shearburn, Malik Ray at the top 30.
And you're completing. These drivers here missed the mark in qualifying, and unfortunately they are going to have to be up on the wheel, and up on the wheel real quick. Brian Schoenberg, no time. He's got some work to do.
And just looking where drivers hang it back a little bit, Tim, they all picked up a little bit of time. Practice to qualify to Mitchell, his qualifying effort 0.3 better than his best one in practice. So clearly he saved the best last in this one. And as the field gets set to roll off and get underway, Tim, talk us through our debut trip to COTA with a look at our ASUS race analysis.
Yeah, the ASUS race analysis. We are going to go 34 laps here this evening at COTA. 18 to 21 on fuel, but we may see some of these guys having kind of short pitted. 4 sets of tires. Strategy is going to be key. How do you abuse the tires, and how do you burn the fuel? And Bobby Zalenski, obviously, probably the guy to be here tonight.
6-time road course winner consecutively in this series. It started in 2017 at Sonoma. You got the 18 and 19 wins in wine country, and then the 2019 Charlotte Roval win last year, winner at the Daytona road course in the Charlotte Roval. As I mentioned, as we were breaking down this race, Bobby Zalenski has led every single lap in the last 4 road course races in this series, but it does not appear that tonight is going to be quite so simple. Mitchell DeYoung, who has already started this season on pole position several times, more than anybody else now in his third of the year, is on pole position. He's a world champion at iRacing on the road courses, and we will see if he can get the 83 car. No one's been able to do it for several years. The pace car is down at the safety of the pit lane, and the field is in the hands of the number 23 Toyota of Mitchell DeYoung alongside Bobby Zalenski. In a debut trip to Austin, we say, let's go racing at COTA. Oh, and Bobby Zalenski turned in the very first corner of the race. They will pile in turn number 1. We knew, Tim, that corner was going to be a concern, and I saw a puff of smoke from Nick Ottinger. Gets into the 83 car, and they stacked him up from there, and what a twist of fate for the 83.
Has to be 2 of the favorite drivers here this evening, and they are already behind the 8 ball with plenty of traffic to catch up with. Looks like Nick Ottinger joined at the back by Logan Clampett. His teammate just heading off as well. So you got some drivers that have some road course prowess here. They've got a lot of work to do.
And how much easier did this night just get for Mitchell DeYoung, having Ottinger And having Bobby Zalenski there take it out of the race just like that. You can see the advantage for the number 23 machine. DeYoung has opened it up about 0.8 of a second from Jimmy Mullis. If this was the U.S. Grand Prix, we'd be talking about DRS range. Instead, we're talking about a driver pulling away. And Mullis, the big winner at all of that, was 7th on the grid. He ends up P2 out of the turn 1 melee based on that inside positioning. So he picks up a lot of spots early, Tim. And how about a Blake Reynolds from 21st to 8th in just half a lap? A lot of big winners, but a lot of big losers.
And it looks like Bobby Zalenski's 13th or so right now. So he lost a lot of ground, but not a lot of ground. But also, look who he's racing around right now. Dylan Duval in the 41 was really confident in his Stewart-Haas race car here this evening. He makes the move, and now he sees a couple of exec guys, I believe, ahead of him. So there's some stiff competition. Yeah, it's only, 13th place or so, but he's still got a lot of quick race cars ahead of him, and Mitchell DeYoung is trying to pull away and get what he can here.
And in a long race like this, we were talking track size, how COTA is so much larger than the likes of Sonoma and Watkins Glen and the Charlotte Roval, that I think Bobby Zalenski is going to have ample time to try to race the 83 if the damage doesn't hurt him too much. You see left side damage, and when he comes through one, you'll see a little bit of rear end damage as the exit cars go side by side, and it's Casey Kerwin with the undercut on Ryan Luza as they battle for positions 11 and 12 right now. I think Zalenski going to be able to comfortably fight for a top 10 if the damage isn't the difference maker. The concern for him, obviously, Tim, is 10 seconds back just based on the time lost from the spin is what I think, in effect, takes him out of this, the battle for the race win, unless we talked about the chance of maybe an alternative strategy, unless it is a clear advantage over the likes of others. I just don't see him being able to bounce back. There is the advantage for Mitchell DeYoung, and let's relive what happened into turn number 1. Watch Zalenski, the silver and red 83. I talked about the inside being open. Right there, the puff of smoke. Otger locks it up. He doesn't go that deep into the corner, Tim, but he doesn't stay on the curbs. And that's how he gets into the 83 as Zalenski. And then look at everybody else just trying to find a way through.
And it looked like there was 3 or 4 cars trying to get into that hole. And look at this hole right here. Bobby's already 3 wide in the middle here, trying to get what he can and make up for lost time. There's one little hit there, I believe, from Nathan Lyon. And at that point, do you kind of see red, Evan, trying to get around these guys, knowing that you lost all this time and have to get back to the front?
I think Bobby, to your point, talking about him being able to, only, quote-unquote, fall back to 13th, and now he got a spot back to P12, it could have been a lot worse. You saw Nick Ottinger, who was sideways, Tim. He wanted to pull around, but he couldn't. He was facing the wrong way, and instead, Bobby Zalenski's in the low teens, and Nick Ottinger's in 33rd position, right? So two very different ends to a wild opening corner, JP.
And Bobby Zalenski, after that, feels he may have engine damage as a result of that damage. He had also said he thought he had a great shot to try and battle with Mitchell DeYoung right before that incident.
A tough blow, and we now, 3 laps into this race, Tim, have officially a first road course lap leader, not named Bobby Zalenski, since the 2018 season. And certainly the odds are stacked against Mitchell DeYoung versus everybody at the moment, but there's going to be a lot of good battles. I mean, Zalenski obviously concerned with the front end damage. That's always your number one concern when you take damage on the front of the race car, but he's not letting Kerwin get away. We just saw that he was able to make a move on Ryan Luza. That is the difference maker for them now, running in 12th and 13th. And Jimmy Mullis is no slouch either, mind you, running in the number 2 spot right now, the Sunoco-sponsored Toyota for Richard Raceway Esports. And there's a look at him on the right-hand side of your screen. A lot of counter steer coming through the corners, Tim, and it looks like he's not cheating with the paddles. He's got the H pattern down there, bottom right. It looks like he keeps dropping the right hand down. That goes back to what we talked about earlier with wheels. It applies to shifters. On the sim, you can pretty much set up your sim rig however you want and comfortable with the most realistic option. That is, it looks like, for the H pattern.
I think it's kind of cool that his gloves that he's wearing on the real steering wheel kind of match what he has in the sim. I think that's kind of neat. He's kind of got that matched up, and I'm glad he made his bed for tonight as well. That's a great note as he runs in position number 2. And Evan, he's got a few second place finishes here at a road course. He wants to finally trade a couple of those in maybe for first place to see what he can do tonight.
You'd love to close this one out and look at him at the end of the very, kind of back half of the racetrack here. These drivers have to navigate those infamous turtle curbs on the inside that enforce the track limits. There's a lot of runoff here compared to a place like Watkins Glen or a Sonoma where you take a misstep and you're off it in the grass and into the fence. So it's a little bit more forgiving. But you still don't want any of the slowdown penalties. Talking about Graham Bolin right now in the number 10 machine. He was somehow able to sneak through some of the chaos early and avoided incident. Was fourth on the grid. He's up into the number 3 spot as they run right now. Having a great showing for Graham, who comes into this evening a handful of spots, I think 5 spots outside of the playoff window, 15th in the points. It may come to a point, Tim, where the points are weighted by wins and then points. If we have more than 10 different race winners, then there could be the chance of a guy with a race win not making the playoffs. But Graham Bolin can't think about that right now. He is 15th in the points, about 19 points out of a points-paying position for a bubble spot. A P3 tonight would be huge for that 10 team.
And you can take a look at Graham Bolin there as well, getting the focus around this racetrack. Currently sits in P3, Evan, but you mentioned those points. You look at where he is in points and the guys that are around him, they're all running decent. Besides Nick Ottinger had his little off there. Bobby Zelensky still trying to make up positions. Corey Vincent's in the top 10. Steven Wilson is in the top 5. And it's hard to make up points with guys that are racing around you. So Graham Bolin has done well at these road courses. Maybe not necessarily one of those guys yet near the top of the list to win, but from what he's seen at COTA and looks like the feel that he has in that race car, I think he might have something here later on tonight. If not for a win, at least a very solid finish.
Just looking at lap times, DeYoung continues to be the best. He's the only driver the last time through that was still in the 2-minute 9-second bracket with the 2:09.855, and it is very even amongst the rest of the cars in the top 5, top 10. You got Mullis with a 10:109, a 10:291 for Bolin, a 10:101 for Wilson. I mean, it is a game of tenths of a second. And when you divide that amongst 20-some-odd corners, so many different places to make up time, to lose time, these guys at the front of the field are very even. Here is Zelensky trying to continue his charge through the field onto the back bumper of Michael Conti. Conti started this race in the number 14 spot, is up 4 spots to position number 10, but Zelensky wants another one, and he is hot on the heels of the 2014 Watkins Glen winner.
Yeah, look at this little battle here. The 8 of Michael Conti, the 83 of Bobby Zelensky, the 38 of Kerwin back there. There's 3 names that should be up at the front of the field. This on any other race, Evan, this would probably be the battle for the lead, but you can see traffic ahead of them as Zelensky goes to work to the inside.
And he's going to squeeze him off. Conti's still going to have the preferred entry as they head off and into the S's, but Bobby Zelensky able to hold through for the first right-hander, and Michael Conti will let both Zelensky and Kerwin go. So Michael Conti will take the drop to position number 12, I think still in the green, so not all lost. And you talk about that red mist, Tim. Bobby looks like he's driving angry.
Yeah, he's got that little look on his face. He's determined. Let's put it that way. He's determined to get back up to the front. McLaren Shadow having a great effort here. Blake Reynolds in the top 10 early in this one and fighting with Taylor Hurst in the 33. That's the battle for 6 with Corey Vincent up the road. And when I think of Taylor Hurst, I think of a really good short track driver, or at least in the past in this series. You go to a Richmond, you go to a Dover, he's really quick. Wouldn't necessarily call him a road course guy. He's had some flashes of brilliance on road courses, but right now, great qualifying effort and great run for that Team Dillon 33.
And he's in the middle of this battle. Blake Reynolds trying to get up onto him. That's the McLaren Shadow entry just off of the back end. Reynolds up 13 positions after starting this race in position number 21. So, like I said, anytime you got chaos, you're going to have losers, you're going to have winners, and we're looking, for the most part, at a lot of the cars that benefited from that chaos on the opening lap of the race. They're trying to stay ahead of the likes of Garrett Maines, who's in the mix there just off of the back end, Bobby Zelensky and others. So this duo between Blake Reynolds and Taylor Hurst, right middle of the road right now. They run 7th and 8th position, just over 10 seconds off of the race leader, Mitchell DeYoung.
And coming in 28 in the point standings, Evan. Blake needs a good run. He needs to get some points. He's had a up and down start to this 2021 season. We're used to seeing him battling for a playoff position, and this is the run that he needs. Obviously, still very early in this race, but this is what he needs for momentum to continue down the summer stretch.
Yeah, tracking if he can maintain this running position for what would just be a second top 10 finish of the year. And of course, 8 starts that I played round 8 of this 2021 campaign. So looking for positives. And another guy I noticed, see, right hand comes off of the wheel, shifting with the H pattern. I'm surprised that more drivers may have wanted to go for the paddles, but you do have a little bit less flexibility in terms of how you shift the gears and whatnot if you're just on the paddles. So a lot of these guys like how these stock cars are, and that is the H pattern shifter, which of course is going to change drastically of the introduction of the next gen cars in the 2022 NASCAR Cup Series season. Those next gen cars, by the way, already here on the iRacing service, so available to drive if you want to get in them. iRacing.com.
Now, Evan, I don't have a whole lot of this road course experience, but that light that's on top of his wheel that's flashing right now, is that related to shifting, hitting the chip? What's that?
I would think it would be basically the RPM gauge on the wheel, and it differs because, there's so many different wheel manufacturers out there, but I would think that when it lights up, it means shift. But you'll notice he doesn't always shift when it gets hot because if you're about to top out to the end of the straightaway and get into the corner, no sense upshifting just to have to downshift 2 gears immediately after. So I wonder how much attention he actually, is giving to those RPM lights. Most wheels are going to have something similar, Justin.
Yes, indeed. And when it comes to Blake Reynolds, he told me his prep work for tonight's race had gone great, where he had put in laps upon laps every day for the past few days in preparation for this race. And he loves it personally, not just because it's his home track, because it's a challenge he felt he loved taking on for this race. So far, he's been very comfortable in the car and says the drive-off has been really strong with that machine.
Here's another look with the 17 machine now of Steven Wilson, who started 10th and has gone all the way up to position number 4. So Wilson on a bit of a tear, some different colors, I will say, on board that number 17 Ford Mustang this week. The Auto Tempest colors on his Roush Fenway Ford. So cool to see some new partners getting into the mix here with the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. I love the artwork and the T-shirt, Tim, and he looks like he's just laid back and taking a Sunday drive.
And you look back from Garrett Maines back to the 83 of Bobby Zielinski, and Zielinski trying to get up here and get one more position. See a little crinkle to the front end of that race car, and right now Garrett doing what he has to do. Rookie in this series, this would be his first road course race with us, and doing a great job right now hanging out in the top 10.
Consistency is going to be the key thing, and Garrett didn't get through the opening lap chaos unscathed. He's got a little bit of damage on his car. You look now on his bumper and up the road in the long straightaway run. Turn 11 to 12, a bit of an uphill hump the midway point, and then it's a little bit downward banked right here. If they get onto the curbs and go down into turn 12, that's where you're going, Tim, from 180 to about 40 miles an hour. And overcooking the corner there was the entry of Blake Reynolds. Blake Reynolds trying to get around Taylor Hurst, who got a little bit too deep off of the corner there. That Grizzly number 33 Chevy, and 66 is going to get him. He'll get him on the inside there for the left-hander. So how about Blake Reynolds up another spot? He now works his way to P7.
And now we'll see if the 2 can get by the 33 and try to pick up one more position. When I chatted with Mitchell DeYoung earlier, I asked him about what's strategy going to be like with fuel and tires. And he said, we might have a 2-stopper, we might have a 1-stopper, but he said the big thing is going to be tires here tonight. You can't buzz the tires coming off the corner. He told me you have to be straight off the corner. So don't get up there and don't really abuse your tires coming off. As you see another battle there, there's Mitchell's teammate Keegan Leahy going at it as he loses one position to the 3 of Corey Vincent. The Cheddar's colors on the side of that 3 tonight.
Yeah, we're used to seeing the Coke colors on that Team Dillon Esports Chevy. Tonight it is the Cheddar's colors on the number 3 machine. This paint scheme is making its iRacing debut tonight, but you could also see it driven by Tyler Reddick tomorrow in the eNASCAR Pro Invitational iRacing Series race here at the virtual Circuit of the Americas. This is the paint scheme that you'll see Tyler Reddick and Tim occasionally in the NASCAR Cup Series. And after a P2 finish in this car at Homestead, he got the nickname the Flying Croissant, which might be one of the most intimidating racing nicknames I have ever heard. So Corey Vincent doing Tyler proud tonight, running that car inside of the top 5 with that pass on Keegan. It's the highest that Corey has been all evening long. As we go back on board with Bobby Zalenski, we're starting to see a group stack up here. Bobby's in 10th. Up the road is Garrett Maines in 9th, Taylor Hurst at 8th, and then Blake Reynolds a little bit further down the road in P7, but they are starting to kind of stack up here, and Zalenski has a good opportunity to make several passes over the next few laps.
And he's got that Formula rim on that car compared to the stock car rim that we saw on the driver wall at the very start of the night with a lot of the round rims that a lot of these drivers are accustomed to running, especially on these ovals. But one thing hasn't changed, Evan. He's still got that, I'm going to call it a determined look. I'm not going to call it an upset look. It's a determined look to try to get up a little bit closer to where he was. He's got that little scowl on and trying to get there, but hopefully that changes by the end of the night because he's been doing work in the first 8 laps.
I mean, I'll just be more frank. He looks mad. And I don't want a happy Bobby Zalenski behind me, let alone a mad Bobby Zalenski. He is determined to kind of make the best out of what these circumstances have become and try to get a good finish out of this one. I said pretty comfortably that I thought he was going to be able to get a top 10 car still. He's already to P10. We're only at lap number 8 of 34, cross it over to 9, so Bobby's got a long way to go. But talking about the Formula rims, I will say both cars who started on the front row with Mitchell DeYoung and Bobby Zalenski with those Formula rims. So that's maybe a good indication that it does help. Granted, they are 2 of the best road course racers in the series. Regardless, here is your race winner from a couple of weeks back. We talked about how cool it was to see Vicente Salas get his first career win, and the first win was Space Station Gaming back at Richmond at the start of April. He's having a decent performance. In 18th position, Tim, he's also trying to recover, right? This is a guy who had a lot of speed, got damaged in the opening lap incident, and had fallen from 3rd down to where he sits now. He got a lot more damage than the likes of Bobby Zalenski and others did, and it's just tough because I don't think there's much of a situation where he can come down and get the car fixed. You're not going to have an elongated yellow period to sit down there and get that car fixed up. So Vicente, a tough night, I think, after I was expecting a lot of that 55 team.
Yeah, I was too. That was one of the drivers that kind of came up in conversation when we're talking about favorites besides, maybe Bobby, Mitchell, those guys that are heavy favoriits. Vicente's name came up a couple of times, but that car looks like it's been through a night at Bristol or Martinsville rather than a night here at COTA. But look at Bobby Zalenski. He's brought friends, and Garrett Maines goes wide. Hello, thank you for coming. Picks up one more spot, and the 38 going to try to pick up one more. AC Kerwin and Michael Conti kind of hanging with the boys here too. So they've been working their way through as Garrett Maines and Casey Kerwin almost have a moment there.
Yeah, big bit of a bobble there for the 38 machine, and Conti's been letting these other guys do all the hard work, and Conti's just kind of been following them through, but Casey Kerwin unable to double up on the Bobby Zalenski pass at Garrett Maines. The 2 car stays in front for the moment, and you can see him, the right-hand side of your screen. A lot of those slight wheel inputs, like he'll go almost, I don't want to say quite 90 degrees, but somewhere in the 60-degree range. There he goes 90 on what's basically a hairpin corner, Tim. But it's not just turn in, turn off like a Formula car that's going to stick to the racetrack. These stock cars take some finesse to make them go fast around a place like this, and that's what all those kind of jagged movements are on the wheel, is just basically, I don't know how to better describe it than walking the car into the corner.
And you have to be aggressive getting down to those braking zones, and we've seen it a couple of times. And I mean, it's lap 10. There's going to be no cautions here tonight. You see Bobby Zalenski, who was right with you, and he's a really good road course racer. How aggressive do you get with Garrett Maines right now if you get a little bit into one of these braking zones?
We talked about how we were expecting a lot out of Vicente in tonight's race, and a lot of these Coke Series drivers, a handful of them at least, competed last week in the eRacing Association Summer Bowl event here at COTA. You could watch that race here on iRacing's platforms, and that race and a $4,000 payday went to Vicente Salas for getting the race win in that one, Tim. Second was Jimmy Mullis. Third was Garrett Maines. So not shocked at all that those are three names that we've already talked extensively about because they were already doing some big events here at COTA last on the service, and I think kind of had set themselves for high expectations in this one.
You're watching Femi Olot on your screen in the 18, Brad Davies. You talk about a veteran that's been around this series for a while. Mentioned Brad being in that first road course race back in 14 and now trying to pick up one more position. This is the battle for position number 31, and a little bit of damage to some of these race cars, but still putting on a show, and not too far up the road, there's Kane Cook picking up one spot on Zach Nichols. So still plenty of racing to be done, Evan. We've been kind of focusing on that top 10 or so, but there's a lot of cars back here that are trying to make up lost time after what happened on the start.
Yeah, we talk about Zelensky's bounce back, but, Sala stuck at 18th position. Ottinger still down in 36th. It even looks like Ashton Crowder is out of this race in the number 1 machine. He parked it halfway through lap number 4 when he had a little bit of contact from earlier, and I think it was contact with Ray Alfala early in this race that took him out of the race. So there's a handful of drivers who have certainly been struggling at almost 1/3 distance through this COTA race. I mean, on the stopwatch, Tim, not going to be a marathon. It'll certainly feel like it. Longest road course race distance-wise per lap that we've seen in this series. Just a unique track. I still think it's fun just watching these stock cars ripping around COTA. For a bunch of us having seen the history of COTA and watching it being built and hosting the U.S. Grand Prix for the last couple of years, I don't think the novelty is worn off. It's a ton of fun, and this is kind of the kickoff to your NASCAR race weekend.
You're right on board with Brad Davies, and you can see him kind of, he's focused. He is determined here this evening to do what he can, and a little bit of a break per se down that little straightaway, and now refocuses that sight on the 18 of Femi Olot and Nichols not too far up the road, but kind of 3 and 9, I guess, on the wheel, Evan, and kind of looks calm compared to Femi. Femi's kind of sawing on the wheel compared to what Brad's doing.
Very different approaches, that kind of chop it at the wheel strategy. You can see Brad with those sharp movements, and Femi a little bit of it off the corner as he has to deal with the struggle of getting this race car to 100% power. Tim, to the point that you mentioned, talking to the faster guys, the DeYoungs and whatnot, they said that you had to attack the corner aggressively, but then you couldn't eat up your tires, couldn't burn them up and get it off of the corner. So those are all the unique challenges in this one. There's quite a bit of radio chatter between Garrett Maines and Casey Kerwin, so they are clearly not happy with each other. That's a battle that we've been watching for some time, and you can see that Casey's in front for the time being, but they're not happy with one another, Tim. This group of 3, Conti hasn't been able to get through. He's kind of been stuck behind them, still in position number 12. The likes of Zelensky, Hurst, Reynolds, drivers who were in this battle about 5 laps ago have all gotten away, but these 3 just can't get separated, and if you're stuck around somebody for lap after lap after lap, not hard to have some of those tempers boil over.
And if there was a little bit of contact, it might end up being like one of them short track terms where if you get into him, you better be gone by the time he gets back to the next corner. So I'm sure that Garrett didn't forget about that. As you see the 90 of Zach Novak, he had an off early in this race, as did Nick Ottinger after everything that happened on the start. He fell back a little bit further. So 2 former champions here going at it. You mentioned Ray Alfala as well, Evan. Ray has a damaged race car too. So if you're a former champion of this series, it might not have been a good night for you so far.
Yeah, your 2020 champion, Nick Ottinger, is 36th. Your 2019 champion, Zach Novak, is 35th. And your 2018 champion, Ray Alfala, is 39th. There's a look at the most recent of our champions. Zach Novak still got the check mounted on the wall. Good placement there, and you can see using the opportunity on the front straightaway to make some adjustments as he takes the right hand off the wheel, and I'm sure is just cycling through some of the data on his side of things or making some adjustments onto the race car, but not a night that either of these drivers are going to want to remember. It didn't start off that bad for Zach. He started 20th, Tim. That was going to be a tough place to be, middle of the hornet's nest, but it involved that incident, as you mentioned, can't get it back here, and then even worse for Ottinger, who I think has gotten the worst end of all of this. He has the most positions dropped out of anybody, and it's not particularly close. down 29 positions from where he started this race. Here's another duo, John Gorlinski and Isaac Gann, battle for 19th and 20th. They're both in the green and making up some spots.
Isaac, one of those drivers that has had a really good season so far. He's in a contention for a playoff position, currently in points. If we were to, get a couple of spots available for point 7, he would be in the top 10 and eligible to, move on and battle for a championship. But we'll see him, I'm sure, on some of these ovals kind of get one of those victories. He's been knocking on the door. John Gorlinski, a veteran of this series, has been in and out and been around for many, many years. And Wood Brothers on that race car and Spin doing a great job for them right now as they battle middle of the pack.
Yeah, we always love to see, as I mentioned, some of the new partners get involved, but we love long-term partners as well. And Ride Spin with the Wood Brothers and Valvoline on Isaac Gann's car, being a longtime partner of Clearman Sport. So happy to have those dedicated sponsors for this eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series, and certainly love giving them some love. And consider this your weekly reminder to support the companies that support racing. We'll take an opportunity to step aside. Mitchell DeYoung is on cruise control at the moment. He's ahead by 4.6 seconds over Jimmy Mullis at COTA.
This Coca-Cola Zero Sugar tastes mighty delicious.
Come on, buddy.
But
if you keep lying like this, you'll be a puppet forever.
It's the honest truth.
You're right. It's delicious.
I never lie.
Driver with a dream, and part of that dream is making all the doubters believe that my name belongs here. I may be new to some, but I am not to be taken lightly.
Oh, and now they're really going at it. Yeah, they are.
Because if you let your guard down, I will rise above. I am the NASCAR Xfinity Series. I am NASCAR.
And back live from Austin, Texas. Coverage of tonight's race is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. And by DoorDash, proud sponsor of 2311 Racing. Well, it is a 2311 Racing Toyota in control. Mitchell DeYoung continuing to dominate the Texas Grand Prix at COTA. Let's ride with him with our DoorDash onboard camera.
The last time he was here, keep in mind, Mitchell DeYoung, he won a gold medal in the X Games back in 2014 here at COTA. That was in Rallycross Lights. Among the drivers he beat were Austin Cindric and Nelson Piquet Jr. talked with him about that experience before this race. He called it a surreal experience, especially growing up as watching many of the action racing stars he competed against. He called it a nice return being back here today, and he mentioned he can always take dealing with the pressure from being in that situation as an opportunity to utilize so for eNASCAR competition.
It's always fun, talking about some of the real-life experience that these drivers have, Tim, because I think if you subscribe to the Parker Kligerman model, which is one that I like, sim racing is a great opportunity for people to get their foot in the door, to get kind of exposed to race cars and motorsports, and then find some talent for it, find a bit of skill, and then transition into a real car. And there's a lot of drivers who race at their local short tracks, a lot of karting experience, legends, everything in between, Tim. But I'm not sure there's many guys who have, rallycross experience like Mitchell DeYoung does. So I think that's pretty cool as we take a look at Bob Bryant getting off the pit road.
I think the 88 of Brad Davies might have been on pit road as well. So a couple of early takers, potentially two-stop strategies. But yeah, I agree with you, Evan. And it doesn't matter if you're a race car driver or you're a broadcaster like ourselves. I started out on sim racing before going to the short tracks. So it's definitely a platform to hone your skills regardless, whether you're maybe on the media side, whether you're a driver, a crew chief, whatever the case may be, you can always hone your skills here on iRacing. And speaking of honing your skills, look at Michael Conti driving in deep, trying to pick up one more spot on Garrett Maines. Maines doing his best to protect that spot.
So we have 19 laps to go this time by, and with drivers headed to pit road, Tim, I would think that about 15 laps into the race is too late for the two-stopper, right? I don't really see the advantage of, if you did another 15 laps, pitting with about 4 laps to go in the race. Does this mean maybe that everyone's going to be on a one-stopper? And if everyone's on the one-stopper, I don't think that means that you can't see some strategy variance. You could have drivers pit 5 laps early, 5 laps late for the halfway point, and everything in between. As here's a big rush to pit road. Leahy from P6. Zelensky follows him to pit road as well. Michael Conti also going to dive to the box. Garrett Lowe is also down pit road. Ryan Luza as well. So this appears to be a popular time, as about half of your top 10 is in this time.
You know what I'm seeing off that last shot there is that those cones are beyond that corner, and there was a lot of drivers trying to storm that right there. Look at that. That might have been Busa back there getting a little aggressive. That's the Clampett getting a little aggressive there too. I think that's going to bite somebody here tonight.
Wouldn't shock me. We've seen a lot of drivers get caught out. Michael Guest will pass, but Blade Witt, Ryan Doucette down pit road this time through. And that is not where you want to go. Keegan Leahy, look out on the cold tires. Just absolutely throws away turn number 1, Tim. That car did not stop, and he put it all the way into the Tufco barrier on the outside of turn 1, and that'll hand a spot to Zelensky, but that's going to cost him like 10 seconds of time and possibly several positions. We saw it live. Let's watch again.
You take one more look at it coming off of pit road on these cold tires and just gets the thing sideways and goes into a four-wheel drive right there. Just kisses that barrier and going to have a little bit of damage from that one. There's some more rush off of pit road. Femi Olat right in the middle. A little bit of damage to that number 18 car.
Yeah, Femi's a little bit scuffed up, as you can see the rest of these cars head off of pit road, Tim. I think it's also interesting to note when you saw those cars down on pit road that there was basically like a Jersey barrier / K-rail style pit wall, because of course when you're racing here in the U.S. Grand Prix, the pit stops are very different here in NASCAR, right? You don't have the crew physically coming over a wall, so pit road here at COTA was not built for a NASCAR race. So COTA was basically leased out to Speedway Motorsports, as we see Bolin come down pit road, Steve Wilson behind him, also into him, and SMI did everything they could to convert this racetrack. And there you see it, right-hand side of your screen. They basically created a NASCAR-compliant pit wall for these drivers to use on pit road. That is exactly what it'll look like this weekend.
And the parade continues down into pit road. There's a 33 of Taylor Hurst on your screen, going to make a stop down to pit road. Mitchell DeYoung still has yet to come in. Jimmy Mullis in second has yet to come in, I believe. So there's Still, those drivers that are out front that have set the pace here this evening, Evan, have yet to come down pit road. Bobby Zalinski coming in a little bit early, maybe trying to get a little bit back as you see him come down the front.
Yeah, so Bobby Zalinski, having cycled through the pit strategy, is the third highest running car who has already pitted. Graham Bolin is actually the lead car as the 6 of Lion, the 9 of Guest come down pit road in tandem. Basically right at the halfway point of this race now, working lap number 17 of 34. So we are still waiting on the top 5 to pit. Mitchell DeYoung from the lead is yet to come in. Jimmy Mullis is still right there, the number 2 car on track, about 6.7 seconds off of the race leader in P2. Also waiting on Vincent, Maines, and Solis to pit. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yet to come in for service, but if it's clear the one stopper is the name of the game, which is pretty evident, Tim, this is the lap to do it with 17 down and 17 to go. So would be shocked at all 5 of them come in.
Well, if you split it to halfway, that would be the stint is 17 and 17 in the 23 of Mitchell DeYoung. We're waiting to see if he will come down onto pit road on this lap or not. But I wouldn't anticipate anybody stretching it, but I guess that's why I think you called us average Joes earlier. Yeah. That's why we're here.
Yeah, maybe sometimes below average at times, as Mitchell DeYoung is going to hook it down pit road. Here's a good onboard perspective. See how he throttles it up, right? That cone for speed wasn't till those yellow pylons, so he slowed down to about 50 miles an hour, throttled it up to 70, and then slowed it down to pit speed of 40 miles an hour. DeYoung in from the lead, Mullis in from the number 2 position, Graham Bolin and some other drivers as this continues to cycle through. Corey Vincent comes down pit road from position number 3. There goes Garrett Maines from position number 4. Do we complete the trifecta with Vicente a little bit down the line? He would be the only driver, I think, left to come out on pit road. And here's a battle of cars who have already completed their service. It's Bobby Zalinski and others, and there is Solis down on the pit lane.
It's Steven Wilson and Bobby Zalinski doing a little bit of a battle for position. 7th currently on the screen, and 2 drivers that are looking for wins here this season. Both are within points contention, kind of knocking on that door of the top 10 when it comes to getting themselves in on points, and doing a great little battle here, but I'm sure Bobby still has that determined look on his face trying to get one more spot.
Yeah, I don't think he's broken that look since the start of this race. Bobby Z committed to trying to make up spots and has gotten all the way to position number 5. How about that? We'll see if some of the cars who stayed out longer and therefore lost time to Bobby Zalinski are going to be able to make it up with the fresh tires now. But top 5 seems like a realistic possibility. Who would have thought when Bobby Zalinski was turned around sideways in the opening quarter of this race? And kind of quietly, Steven Wilson has put himself in this picture, right, Tim? We talked about the Auto Tempest colors on that car as he goes down to the inside, side by side for 4th, give it to Zalinski. So Wilson will drop back down a spot to 5th, but this is a great showing by that 17 car.
We mentioned all season our rookie crop, the new drivers to this series, and Steven Wilson started out strong, and maybe not necessarily as strong as he has been consistent, reeling off really good finishes and having some speed. As we're going to take a little look here on your screen as the 17 tries to make that move. We're going to take one look here at the pit exit. There's Mitchell DeYoung coming off of pit road, and looks better, I guess, looks better than his teammate, I think.
Yeah, he's able to be smooth. Here's Jimmy Mullis coming off of the pit lane. Watch this battle with that Ted Bishita Bolin coming in the 46 car, clean in through. There's Bolin, there's Wilson, and there is Zalinski trying to make that move down to the inside. So we saw that mistake by Leahy may have been the only one to have a serious issue coming off the pit lane as Zalinski continues now to try to run away from Wilson in the battle for 4th and 5th position. It is the closest one on track, so Mitchell DeYoung nets about a second between 1st and 2nd on the pit cycle. It was about 7 seconds before. It is high 8 seconds now, the difference for 1 and 2. But everything there on back, Bolin 3rd, and in this battle, Zalinski 4th and Wilson 5th, all seemingly up for grabs in the second half of this race.
As we ride on board with Steven Wilson, I think the next question is, obviously 13, 14 seconds is going to be a huge hill to climb for Bobby Zalenski, but it's only, what, 5 seconds between himself and Jimmy Mullis for a second? Yeah, those passes are going to get difficult on Graham Boland and Jimmy Mullis, but does this become I have to get to second place rather than I have to, fight for that lead?
Yeah, that may be the end objective, right? We'll see if Mullis trickles down into this. Based on Mullis' speed from the first half of the race, I'm not sure these guys are going to be able to get to the 46. Unless Mullis makes a mistake of some sort. 2 seconds ahead of Boland in third isn't a ton of time, but I just haven't seen much of a chink of the armor, if you will, out of Jimmy Mullis tonight. But Graham Boland, somebody who's gone forward all night, Bobby Zalenski up to P4, I still think is an incredible recovery and could end up on the third step of the podium tonight. Would be quite a turnaround. There is some pretty significant lap traffic that the leaders have started to have to deal with, Tim. It's going to be more and more in the second half of this race. Your leaders running 2 minutes and 10s, and the back half of the field is pretty much within that range. So they've had to deal with a couple of slower lapped cars, but soon these leaders will have to deal with actual lap traffic, and the racetrack's big enough. I would think most cars are able to get on through without incident, but if somebody wants to let you go in one corner, they might end up on the inside of you in the next. So you do need to be careful with that traffic.
And you look at this racetrack, there are still everybody on this racetrack except for 2, and there's 3 of those drivers that are battling on the racetrack. Keegan Leahy is kind of focused there, got the mouth open, got that lean going on. Michael Conti there as well, and he's got that focus. He's got those triple monitors you can kind of see out the side, and Taylor Hurst as well, an opportunity to fix the glasses and kind of wipe the sweat off his brow as he battles it out for a position, and they're all on your screen, and they're all battling within close proximity right now, trying to get a top 10 finish out of this thing.
Doing what they can with 14 laps to go at COTA the next time by, and that last lap by Mitchell DeYoung, fastest of the race, 2 minutes 8 seconds, .714. He is the only driver to get into the 2 minute 8 second bracket. The next fastest lap out of anybody came from Bobby Zalenski with a 2 minute 9:014. So Mitchell DeYoung, personal best and race best lap the last time through. The 23 machine, Tim, clearly not concerned about backing it down and taking it easy and enjoying that fresh rubber. He'll end up in the double digits, the advantage for the race lead by the time this one is done. And, you rewind to Bobby Zalenski's performance at the Roval last year, an 11.6 second win over the likes of Mullis in the number 2 spot. You're pretty much seeing Bobby Zalenski pace out of Mitchell DeYoung tonight.
And if you're Jimmy Mullis right now, running in position number 2, you mentioned those second place finishes, and you're running second right now, and it's not to Bobby Zalenski. How frustrated can you be?
Well, we've seen the look, so I know how he feels of this one. And, credit to Wilson for sticking with him. Once Bobby Zalenski was able to make the move, Graham Boland is going to make it very difficult for him to catch up and take a couple of steps down the running order. There's the 2 of Garrett Maines again. He has split up the X-Set cars who were running together for the longest time. Maines in 14th, just ahead of Ryan Luza. In that number 4 Ford, who sits exactly where he started this race in 13th position. And we take a look at the battle for 4th position, the left-hand side of your screen, and the battle for 13th on the right. I would not be shocked if Steven Wilson can keep that charge up and maybe put a move on Bobby Zalenski by the time this one's done. Maybe unfair to have assumed that Bobby was just going to run away once he made that move, because Wilson is hanging with the best of the best.
And this battle for 4th hasn't been able to make a whole lot of time up on 3rd or on 2nd. And of course, Mitchell DeYoung is still pulling away and putting up some really good lap times. So this battle on your screen right now for P4, Bobby, he's been able to pull away by a couple of car lengths, Evan, but really hasn't had that muscle and that strength that we're used to seeing on road courses, albeit, yes, he does have a little bit of damage to the VRS Latardi Sports number 83. But kudos to Steven Wilson for being up here. He's had the speed all season long and continuing to show it on the road courses.
He has, and it's good to see that from somebody like a Wilson. I know we mentioned a little bit earlier how important a good run was for the likes of Bolin, and Wilson could certainly take the points as he hopes to stay at this level for 2022. Looking at the number 6 machine at Nathan Lyon, I mentioned that he and Michael Guest had pitted together, but Lyon clearly got through the pit cycle better of those two because he is up and ahead of that 9 and Guest by about 3 spots and is on the back bumper of Blade Witt. This is a battle for 24th and 25th.
Trying to get by is Nathan Lyon, the 14 of Witt, and there's a driver that has had a season, a rookie season that he kind of wants to forget. Was up in front, almost got a win out of a pitch strategy call earlier this season, Evan, but didn't get the luck that he wanted to, didn't get the cautions away. He wanted them to fall, and now he's battling with Nathan Lyon for a position, and then that 9 car right in behind. You mentioned Michael Guest earlier tonight, that big green 8 car for Jim Beaver Esports. One of the top drivers in points without a win. So you'd have to think with a road course, maybe the road course isn't necessarily his cup of tea or his strength. Try to get what you can for points and keep yourself up there if you can point yourself in, and that may be a big if with all the winners that we've had.
Yeah, Guest is the highest driver without a win, Tim, in normal points, unweighted. He's 3rd. When you count all those race winners in, he's 8th. And if Mitchell DeYoung hangs on to win this, he could drop to P9 in the playoff standings. So non-race winners may be an endangered species. But the time this regular season gets to the end is here is Logan Clampett giving it a lot of counter steer in his Logitech G Chevrolet for William Byron Esports. Down 4 from the get-go, a little bit of damage in and up the road. Well, Jake Nichols, haven't talked much about his Mode Motorsports entry. They've got some different colors on that number 24 Ford this week, the patriotic colors for the Mode Media House entry, and a good look for Jake, who is pretty much running exactly where he started. There's a good look at the race car as he's dealing with Vicente Salas behind him.
That's a pretty sharp scheme on that number 24 car. And when you look at it, we said he's had a quiet night, but that might be a good thing, knowing that car is, it looks like, in one piece, not a whole lot of damage to the race car compared to some of the race cars that we've seen around COTA here this evening. Doing a great job holding off. And there's Chris Shearburn, last week's winner. The last time we raced, he was your winner. And right now, in position number 23 with Blue Emu on that car.
You got the race win for Letarte Esports. Fun to see that not only has the trend continued, Tim, for the different race winners, but the different teams, right? Michael Conti for Junior Motorsports, Keegan Leahy with 2311, Luza with XSET. You got Logan Clampett with William Byron Esports, Bob Bryant for Clickerman Sport, Vicente Salas for Space Station, and Chris Shearburn for Letarte. I mean, it has been a wild west of who could win these races on Tuesday night so far in 2021. There is no clear breakaway, but Chris Shearburn has won more races in our last 8 than anybody else. Of course, won that 2020 season finale. There's a look in 37th position with the 37 of Derek Justice. He is the last car on the lead lap in the Louisiana Hot Sauce Kroger-sponsored Chevrolet for JTG.
Hasn't been the night for JTG or Derek Justice. Brian Schoenberg, his teammate, has already retired from this race. And Derek, I think at this point, trying to hold on for dear life as you see Michael Conti, and he's got a little bit of company with Garrett Maines. A great run here tonight for the two, kind of hanging out in the top 10 and battling with some of these former road course winners and former champions in his maiden voyage in this series on a road course.
And is trying to work his way through the number 8 machine of Conti up the road. Conti successfully defending for the moment. Next time by, your race leaders will take 11 laps to go as Mitchell DeYoung tries to close this one out. But lots of fighting inside of the top 10. You're watching the 2021 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series.
This Coca-Cola Zero Sugar tastes mighty delicious.
Come on, buddy.
But
if you keep lying like this, you'll be a puppet forever.
It's the honest truth.
You're right. It's delicious.
I never lie.
I am in awe of your bravery, your selflessness, your strength. For the millions of ways you keep us safe, I am only here because of your sacrifice. And I am not going to stop until each and every one of you is recognized for what you do for this country. And for that, I am forever grateful. I am NASCAR.
And back live from the virtual Circuit of the Americas. Coverage of tonight's race brought to you by Cheddar's Scratch Kitchen, your race day pit stop for home-style comfort food and an ice-cold Coca-Cola. And by Asus, the official gaming hardware partner of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. Currently working lap number 24 of 34 from the virtual Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas for the Texas Grand Prix at COTA, round 8 of the 2021 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. Happy that you're with us on the iRacing Esports Network. With Justin Prince downstairs, Tim Terry, and myself, Evan Pasoko. Tim, and I mean, the big highlight, obviously, the start of this race where Mitchell DeYoung gets out in front, Bobby Zalenski gets turned, but the story has not ended there. Drivers have stormed their way back through the field. We got drivers going everywhere but on the asphalt as Garrett Maynes was using a lot of runoff that time in a three-way battle for 11th, 12th, and 13th, and again, pushing those track limits to the outside.
If it's solid, if there's runoff area, we can use it, right? You try to get everything that you can and try to push those outer limits, but trying to pick up some speed and trying to get the best of Michael Conti, which might be easier said than done for Lowe in the 21 as he goes, oh, hello, and that's a little too much of a runoff, I think, of what he maybe bargained for or maybe wanted, maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. He picked up the spot.
That is one way to make the move, using every inch of the racetrack and then some, and Garrett Lowe apologizing over the radio, but he basically just bullied Michael Conti out of that position, and Garrett Lowe will move up, takes that spot away, give position number 12 to him. Well, we talked about some of the early race chaos. Tim, one of the drivers, Ray Alvala, forced down to pit road. You've got him dialed up.
Ray, it wasn't your night. What happened at the start of this race?
Tim, what didn't happen? You know, we were just kind of mid-pack, struggling a bit with the handling of the car, and just, you know, first time here, I don't have that many laps here. And as you can hear, I've been sick for, I don't know, past few days. A whole lot of stuff hasn't worked in my favor, but we were just looking to at least get a clean race, and then there's a big wreck in turn one. We got in that one. I think we made contact with Brad Davies, and then there was another wreck, and then we made contact with Brad Davies again. Everybody's just trying to get through the wreck, and we just came together. And then Clampett just dumped me in the long right-hander, so it's been that kind of season. I really hate it. You know, trying to get Rowdy Energy the first win and virtual racing school back in victory lane, but you know, we'll have to wait another week.
You've been in this series since day number one. And remember back to 2014 where the road courses first became a part of this schedule, and you know, drivers wanted it, and all of a sudden we had one road course each season. Now we have three, and we have Circuit of the Americas. How cool is it to be here? And what is your take on the oval schedule having three of these road courses?
I mean, I like this track. I think you know, it produces pretty good racing. And you know, way back in the day, I was in the Road World Championship, but that was with open wheel, and this doesn't at all drive like that, obviously. So it's been pretty tough. But these next two, you know, Road America, I love that track, and then Watkins Glen is basically an oval, so I love that track. So yeah, I'm still looking forward to it. You know, I'm trying to keep my head up. You know, we have it's been a rough year, but I'm trying to make the best out of it, and it's going to be tough to, even if we win a race, it's going to be tough just to make the top 20 points, but we're not giving up.
Well, we wish you all the best. Get better, get some rest. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Tim.
That's Ray Alfano, driver, the number 51 for JGR. And look at this little mess that we have on our screen. Evan, Dylan Duval trying to fend off Nichols. Bob Bryant trying to pick up a couple of positions. This is a fun little tussle.
It is, and good to hear from Rayon Falla. They're the best to ever do it in this series. Last race win came last year at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. The all-time winningest driver series history, 25 career race wins. Let's take a look back. These guys are 3 wide just a few moments ago. We talked about all the battles still happening on track. Check this out. The 41 to the outside, 55 what he thought was the bottom. And here comes that 77 of Bryant up the inside. Hard braking zone at the end of the straightaway. You can see he locks it up just a little bit. Now the 24 comes on the scene. Looks like using a little bit of extra real estate there up on the outside with Solace. And then there goes the number 24 around the outside. Jake Nichols wanting to keep that 3 wide, but the 41 of Dylan Duval hanging on to the spot up for grabs for the time being. And here's a familiar duo that we've been tracking for much of this race. Garrett Lowe, 12. Michael Conti, 13. One of the closest scuffles on the racetrack right now. About 40 seconds off of race leader Mitchell DeYoung. But still fighting to get every spot they can.
And we mentioned Garrett Lowe does a little bit of legend car racing as well in real life, and he's done the road course at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. As you see Kane Cook in the Fistful of Bourbon number 15, running back there in position number 28. We saw his car a little bit earlier on, getting what he can in 28.
That's all it comes down to. Get what you can. Kane Cook in the green for the Fistful of Bourbon number 15 Ford Mustang for the Jim Beaver Group. That is a positive. I think if you can finish in the green, it could always be worse. And one of those drivers who I think is looking forward to heading to Charlotte next week. Jake Matheson, somebody else who is in the green. He started 36th. Tim, he is up to 31st. For these guys who are not the road course ringers, who do not do this regularly in a stock car or out of it, another series on the iRacing service, all you want to do, finish in the green, get points. That's what all these guys are fighting for.
And there's Bob Bryant. We saw Bob on our screen a little bit earlier on with that 2 and 3 and 4 car battle and 3 wide. And I think right now there's a little bit of a sigh of relief on his face that he's not doing the do-si-do, doing the 3 wide moves, but still back in position number 18, getting all the points he can. Keep in mind, he does have a win, Evan. Sits 13th in points coming in when you go back to points. As you look back to Garrett Lowe, he's trying to get some points, as is Garrett Lowe in this number 21. Still got the Bando door in behind him.
Yeah, keeping that up on the walls. We've seen that a few times as we take a look at it with him. And we talked about the guys putting in a physical effort tonight. He looks like he's been working hard, maybe a little bit hot from working hard in this race. So he's been at it from the get-go. And there's the other half of that battle for position number 12, Michael Conti, on board with him on the left-hand side. And look at his sim rig on the right-hand side. Of course, no shock to him with WR1 sim chassis on that Chevy. That they hooked him up real nice with a good sim rig at home. Looking pretty legit for the driver of that number 8 machine.
Yeah, there was a story a couple of weeks ago on the JRM website about the new rig and getting used to the WR1 sim chassis rig that, Michael Conti has raced on his own gear since way back in the day. And just getting that comfort back, per se. Michael Conti's got to win. Start of the season. He's already locked into the playoffs if he can finish in the top 20 in points and be up there and get in that top 10. So now he's learning, maybe doing a little bit of R&D, and he almost did a little R&D on the back bumper of the 21 car.
Well, the 21, remember when Garrett Lowe made that pass, he kind of went the long way around the corner and pushed up right on his hood. So I don't think Michael Conti is that inclined to be too clean about this one. Look at Nathan Lyon working hard, Tim. Just when we took that camera, you saw the desk shake. He is really using a lot of force on the wheel to get that thing to rotate. And let's see if he jerks the desk around at the end of the straightaway here. Could be moving the monitors and everything, but that tells me the car is not handling fantastic if he's going to give it that much to get it to turn. Into the straightaway, left-hander, a little bit calmer that time through.
I think the mouth comes open on those corners, those technical corners, trying to get around. There's Ryan Doucette, a season that he wants back, I'm sure, but rookie season. And look at these guys battling in front of him. Michael Guest trying to get all he can, and I'm sure that's what he's telling his crew right now is Ryan Doucette.
He almost seems confused that the race car is not doing what he wants to. He almost looks perplexed as he goes through the corners. And Tim, I know I'm guilty if I'm behind the wheel or doing anything else, where I'm focused. Sometimes the tongue comes out when you're focused, and all these guys, it's just fun to see those. Everyone, he's smiling. He's having a good time working that wheel hard. Is Ryan Doucette in the number 27 positions, a little bit further on down the road, but 33rd, Zach Nichols, who has a good chance to stay on the lead lap in this race, which I think for a lot of these guys, an accomplishment in and of itself, to stay within the lead lap of a guy like Mitchell DeYoung, up 3 positions. And the room is themed accordingly to match that Williams Esports Ford, but he goes off track and lets some race leaders go on through.
There's the 9 of Michael Guest, the big green egg Jim Beaver esports car. Talked earlier about his points position. He's putting himself in a position to battle for a championship this season with this Jim Beaver esports team, but he's got to break through and I think get that victory, especially if the winners continue to add up. And Mitchell DeYoung right now 7 laps away from a win and 13 seconds ahead of Jimmy Mullis. And oh, by the way, those top 3 that are on the top of your screen, Evan, neither of them have won a race this season. So trying to add one more to that list of 7 looks fairly likely, at least right now.
And we mentioned this last week, would we hit 7? And we did. We got our 7th different race winner of the year with Shearburn taking the checkered flag at Kansas, Tim. We are sitting tied with the all-time record for different race winners to start a year way back to this series' inaugural campaign back in 2010 was the last time we had 7 different winners in the first 7 weeks. It took to Richard Towler in round number 8 of that season to become the first repeat winner. As we take a look on board with Alan Bowes in 33rd spot. Respect to the Jeff Gordon flag on the wall behind him, Tim. Just talking about the names that were amongst those 7 different winners back in 2010. Dale Earnhardt Jr., a race winner at Daytona, followed by Sandeep Banerjee, the race win at Las Vegas. Richard Towler, a Bristol winner. Ray Alfala, a Martinsville winner on March 23rd, 2010. Keep in mind, it's 2021 right now. Josh Parker, the winner at Phoenix. Brad Davies, Talladega winner. And Josh Berry, might have heard of him, Darlington winner in this series. A lot of those drivers have come a long way since the last time we had 7 different winners as we ride with Dylan Duval.
And Dylan Duval, kind of a little bit of a sawing on the wheel through the S's here, trying to get back up. The driver from Halifax, Nova Scotia, was a part of those 2 and 3 wide intense battles. I believe that might be Vicente ahead of him, trying to reel him in the final 6 laps or so of this event. But doing a great job right now. He was kind of confident coming in with his race car, so I'm sure he's not going to be happy with 16th, but that's where he is. And of course, a new room for Isaac Gann, out of the college dorm into the new room. And this one looks fairly clean right now. The desk looks fairly clean, a little bit behind him, another monitor sitting there, but looks fairly calm right now, at least in the room. Maybe not on the steering wheel and not up on the wheel. There he is.
Just sees us and gives us a fist bump. Give it a couple of weeks for him to work in that new setup, but I'm sure it'll be well worn in. Congrats to Isaac on graduating. And Tim, I hope the boys are somewhere watching, because that was, I think, one of the highlights of the year, seeing everybody in the second room over cheering him on when he got that top 3 finish a handful of races back. Here's a look with the Blade Witt riding in the number 25 spot at the moment. Blade is up 6 positions from the start of the race. So yes, Tim, these guys in the 20s and the 30s are not in a race-winning car. They don't have that speed here tonight. But again, for all the guys who just want to get through this race, I think as long as you're in the green, you're having a good time out. And he's got the racing gloves on. Seems pretty content. He's in a bit of a bubble right now. Doesn't have that much to catch up the road, but he does need to keep the speed up because Michael Guest and Ryan Doucette are not that far behind his iRacing number 14 machine. So he does need to keep the pace up through these final 5.
Hit all your marks, get what you can, and for some of those drivers, as you mentioned, Evan, it's a matter of get what you can and then get out of here and get back to Charlotte next week. There's Bobby Zielinski. Now you can see that he's shaking Steven Wilson. He's a little bit behind him. You see Graham Boland right ahead of him. He's catching the 10 car. The question is, does he have enough time to A, get there, and B, make the pass? Because he's making some inroads, but those inroads have been fairly short. try to get up to Graham Boland, and look still hasn't
it hasn't changed.
It's still, I don't think he's very impressed with the way the night is going.
No, and I think that the last time he was better than Boland by about 0.2 of a second. That would not be enough nearly to make up about the 3-second difference between the two of them. This time by coming to take 4 laps to go from COTA, it would have put him well shy. And I still think for Bobby Zalenski, Tim, to recover to a P4, if this is the top of the mountain for him on his climb back from 13th position after that wreck at the start of the race, I still think that is a great end for Bobby Zalenski, considering how it could have gone the way of Salas or the way of Ottinger, right? It could have been a lot worse, but Bobby knew with those race winner positions filling, Bobby came into tonight the 3rd driver out of the points. If there were no wins, Tim, Bobby was P10 in points tonight. He was going to be fine. But with the wins factored in, entered tonight 13th in the points. He is very aware that these spots are going to burn up quickly. And I think Bobby, for the first time in a long time, may have a lot of pressure when we head to our next road course race, another debut in series history as we get over to Road America at the end of June.
And then we head to the Glen. So there's 3 road courses here that Bobby has a shot at. One might not be great, the other 2 still to come. But look at those times compared to Graham Boland trying to make that time up and running quickly out of laps here this evening. But I think you mentioned it. There's one road course here that may not have necessarily gone his way. But Evan, if it's any consolation, and it's probably not, it's a good point night for Bobby Zalenski. And oh, by the way, the driver that he had the little set 2 with, Nick Ottinger, he was running 39th at one point tonight. Ottinger has found his way back up to 30th. So compare that to where Bobby Zalenski is, it could have been a lot worse.
And I want to expand on that point, Tim, for a moment as we look a little bit back at Nick Ottinger, who just hasn't been able to recover after his incident, started 5th and is in 30th, Tim. I think this is I think I can say pretty comfortably now that we're going to have 10, if not more than 10 different race winners this year, which means that a win is not going to be enough to secure you a spot in the playoffs, right? That is why a good points night for Bobby Zalenski, Tim, is big. Because I mentioned if you didn't weigh the points on wins, right? Bobby was P10 into tonight, but with the wins, he was 13th. In points, if Bobby were to get a win at Road America or at Watkins Glen, he would be ahead of Luza, Bryant, and Salas. And he would put those drivers maybe into a bump position. So that is why wins, always important. We knew that was going to be a thing with this win and you're in format. But points, with how many different race winners we have, could be Bobby Zalenski's saving grace. And that's why I 100% agree with you. A P4 tonight is the furthest thing from a lost cause.
And looking at your top 10 right now, this being the head of the pack and Mitchell DeYoung, none of those drivers in the top 10 have won this season. So there's it goes to show, and it goes to that next road course race coming up at Road America that we might see somebody put in that little extra effort, maybe get a good qualifying effort and maybe shine right there as well. But it's just like the real world NASCAR Cup Series. Alex Bowman gets a second win at Dover and feels comfortable because 2 wins is definitely going to get you a playoff position. So we'll see what happens here in these next upcoming races. Going to put the pressure back on these drivers that have won 1 to now win 2.
And in Mitchell's case, if he could hang on, barring any sort of late race drama in this one, and Mitchell DeYoung goes on to get a race win, we would break the record with an 8th different winner to open up the season. And you talk what Mitchell has done, Tim. Mitchell was 19th in the points, so he would bump even more drivers down. But Mitchell, I would be concerned, Tim, would need maybe 2 wins because he would be the lowest in points with a win. And as I just explained, if we have more than 10 different race winners, it will be weighted by wins and then points. So Mitchell, despite maybe trying to get a win here tonight, may be in a pressure-packed situation, Tim. So the battle between Mitchell and Bobby could be a mammoth fight with how much those 2 drivers will have on the line at the 2 other road course races still to come this regular season. Not even talking yet about the one in the playoffs if those drivers can get there.
Yeah, July 29th, I believe, is Road America. You want to circle that on your calendar right now and join us here on eNASCAR, because that is going to be one that you're going to want to watch. And oh, by the way, Jimmy Mullis is good at these road courses, and Graham Bolin has really come into his own as a road course racer as well, as you're right on board at him, sitting in position number 3. Those drivers are going to be gunning for wins as well. There's Michael Conti on your screen, and Ryan Luza in behind, 2 of our previous winners this season, and not in the top 10. This is the battle for 13th.
Who'd have thought? What a weird night, I think, all in all. But you talking about Conti, I mentioned he was the 2014 Watkins Glen winner when we saw our first ever road course race in this eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. You got Ryan Luza, Tim, who, by the way, in the last 3 years of this series, he was the first driver to get 2 race wins. Luza had averaged about 3 wins in the opening 10 weeks of the last 3 years. So this is the longest Ryan's gone without a second win in the calendar in quite some time. Luza is somebody who expects victories, and we'll see all these guys in contention when we go to the longest oval race of the season next week at the Charlotte Motor Speedway for 200 laps. In that one. So you had to endure a couple of weeks off up to this one, but we got racing next Tuesday night here on the iRacing Esports Network. Up at the front of the field, Mitchell DeYoung inside of 2 laps to go. Jimmy Mullis about 16 seconds off, Justin.
And for Jimmy Mullis, he's been near complete silent on the radio tonight, dialed into this race. But one of the main things he told me before this race was his expectations to have a clean race, to try and get himself some points, because he feels he's had speed this year, but has just been caught up in things out of his control that have kept him down the standings. Tonight, he's achieved those goals right now in the closing stages of this race.
And that's what you want. And for somebody like a Jimmy Mullis, Tim, we talk about all these different situations, right? Jimmy comes into tonight 30th in the points. So I don't even think he's in a position where he can think of a win yet. Will he be a contender for a win at Road America? Yes. Will he be a contender for a win at Watkins Glen? Yes. But a race win is not going to count towards playoff eligibility unless you're top 20 at the end of the regular season. Remember, you need to be top 20 to stay in this series for 2022. Mullis back half of the circuit, but at a turn number 20 is Mitchell DeYoung, the driver of the number 23 Dash Pass Toyota, looking for the white flag at COTA.
He's going to get the white flag here, and Jimmy Mullis is going to have to try to dig, because Mitchell DeYoung is on that white flag lap. And you see in front of him, there's a little bit of lap traffic. Zach Novak, and then in front of him, Malik Ray and Femi Olot. But he really doesn't have to pass them. He's got a 17-second advantage.
He is well out in front, and even to the very end, 17 seconds ahead, Tim. He has not backed that thing off at all.
No, absolutely not. He is getting everything that he can here, and he's not wasting any time. We said he didn't have to get to Zach Novak, but I have a feeling he might get there.
He is closing in. Novak right now, final driver on the lead lap in P35. All things considered, 35 cars at a lead lap right now. It's a pretty good number, even given the fact that the racetrack's so big as we ride with the 23.
Through the corner, down the back straightaway for the final time, and this is the only opportunity you really have to catch your breath really on this racetrack, to get down to these final couple of short corners and get back to the finish line. And that focus has not left through 33 and a half laps or so, and gets close to Novak, but not enough there to put him 1 lap down yet.
It's been a historic season all year long in this eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. We saw a first-time winner just 2 races ago with Vicente Salas at Richmond. And tonight going to be another one full of firsts as Mitchell DeYoung navigates the final handful of corners in the Coke Series debut race at Circuit of the Americas. For 2311 Racing, he'll come through the final set of corners and become the 57th different driver to ever win a race in this series. He'll become the 8th different driver to win in the opening 8 weeks of this series. Also, an all-time record, but most important for him, a first career win and a possible ticket to the postseason. A sigh of relief as Mitchell DeYoung dominates for his first win at COTA. and maybe the first breath in an hour and a half, Tim.
Yeah, take a deep breath, soak it all in. He's now a winner in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, a rookie in this series. He's been a part of the Porsche Series. He knows how these World Championships work, and now he's on his cool-down lap. But, Mitchell, it doesn't look like it's a cool-down lap. Congratulations, bud.
Thank you, Tim. Oh, man. I can't believe it. Obviously, it was a little bit messy in the beginning, and it was quite stressful. Man, I tell you what, it helps having a comparison like Bobby and the guys that work behind the scenes on this. It's such a huge help going into the race and like knowing that you're going to be fighting with your teammates for pole. So man, it was a really tough kind of couple of weeks of practice, but man, I can't believe it. This feels so good. Obviously, it's so stressful, and it's such a competitive series, especially, how dominant Bobby's been. Really unlucky for him today. I think we would have had a good battle, but feels so good.
8 races, 8 different winners, and you come home in dominating style of 17, 18 seconds at the end of this one. How does this one feel to notch this one and become the 8th different winner and your rookie season in this series too?
Feels amazing, man. We've had quite a difficult season so far, I would say. We've had some positive showings of potential. We've also had some, kind of big failures. So feels good. Hopefully this is kind of the momentum we need to get back on track. Obviously it'd be fantastic to get a win on an oval. And that's what we're going to try. So we gotta get our heads in the game and ready to go for the end of the season. But obviously we have a lot of season to go to stay in the top 20.
And looking forward, what kind of celebration are we going to do here? Are we going to do any cartwheels? Are we going to do any flips? What's the celebration going to be like here?
Well, we did the cartwheels for Pesk. I'm not so sure here. I think I'm lacking a little bit of room behind me. So, I don't want to injure myself, but we're going to enjoy this one for sure.
Congratulations, Mitchell, as he lights it up. This is the Coca-Cola winning moment, refreshed by Coca-Cola. Evan Pasoko, what a finish.
History. He continues to make history. This season continues to make history. 57th different Coke Series winner, 8th different race winner in 8 weeks this year, which is an all-time record. And Tim, the boat continues to get full in terms of the battle for the championship.